I took a little nap, before this. And, sometimes, I mean, I've been watching this show for like 3 years now. So sometimes some of the subjects get redundant. You know what I mean? So I'll cut out and watch something else, or I'll pop in. But I
We're
want to
live,
get in
bro.
right on.
Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 194. I hope you guys had an amazing week, killer Friday, to kicking off a fabulous weekend. Have a great guest with you. You guys know him all from chat and around Instagram. Your boy Roy Boy, how you doing tonight? Uh, First of all, you want to tell everybody where all they can find you and how you're doing today?
I'm doing fine tonight, Eagle. Thanks. Anybody listening can find me on Instagram under Your Boy Roy Boy. Same thing on YouTube. I don't have any active content on my page yet, but you are welcome to sign up to it when I do start, posting stuff on the YouTube.
Nice. So how you been? It's been a minute. How's your day?
My day's been pretty good so far. You know what I mean? The room just kicked on at 6. I'm in veg right now. I'm in it's day 8, because what I do is I veg underneath T5s, and then from there I put it under a flower room, 1,000 watt HPS single bulb. But from coming up from under the fluorescence into the flower room, the HPS is pretty strong on the plants. They don't like it. You know what I mean? I could really do some damage to them. So I have to flip the hood all the way up. And also at that time, I also like to repot. I pot up. I go from 1 gallon to a five gallon pot. So I'll usually leave it in there for anywhere from 3 to 14 days, depending how many plants I have in there, and fill up that canopy. After vegging for another 3 to 14 days in the flower room, I'll turn the timer. I'll switch it down to 12:12 and start counting off the weeks.
Nice. You're too far in the shop already, brother. What are you smoking on? You got something to smoke on?
Yeah, actually, I got some blue Magoo cookies from Dynasty Genetics, Professor P. It's really the
Oh, that
first
sounds
cookie strain. It's really the first cookie strain I've ever tried. You know what I mean?
that sounds nice. That sounds nice. Is that
It
something
is.
you grew yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah. I won a pack of beans from him on one of his Instagram lives. He'll come on randomly 1, 2 in the morning, East Coast time, and just do these seed giveaways, and he'll talk for a few hours about anything and everything. And he'll do seed giveaways. And about 3 months ago, 3, 4 months ago, I won a pack of the Blue Magoo cookies, shipped it out with a couple of shirts, and then when I was ready for the next run, I popped them. I also popped a 5-pack of Space Dog from Subcool TGA. I mean, that was one. I picked up that pack around right around the time of the fire. Was leaving California, and for some reason, one reason or another, I don't know the details, but he was having issues with a few of his seed distributors, so they wanted to move on and sell his gear cheap. So I picked, scooped up the packs, quite a few packs, and that was one of them. So I popped it, back when in February, about a week after he passed, So I popped it. I had some issues with the paper towels. I used bottled water. Biggest mistake, because the pH is all over the place with like Poland Spring or Arcadia, or you know what I mean. And I assumed that bottled water would be at least like neutral, like a 7, and when I seen that, I had a big issue with the seeds popping. I I germinated 30 seeds. Out of 30 seeds, I soaked 30 seeds, and out of 30 seeds, only 15 popped, actually popped tails. Which that's never really happened to me. But I found out that the Poland Springs, for some reason, was floating at about 5.0 pH, if not a little lower. It was a dark red. I don't have a pH meter. I use the drops, the GH drops, and it was just a fucking dark red color. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that was it. It was a bad pH, and it just did a horrible job popping the seeds. But it turned out the one out of the 5-pack of Space Dog, the one plant that did grow is a female. So I lucked out on that. So I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I would have expected that bottle of water to be somewhere around 7 too. I wonder if that could have been from like sitting out in the sun. You know what I mean? Maybe that pack sat out in the sun at some point, and the it interacted with the plastic like that, leaching in with the plastics leaching into the water. Maybe I don't know. That's pretty crazy.
I didn't even think of
It
that.
had to have
And
been something. The water. I'm sorry.
no, no, that was on me. I didn't even think of that, and that's brilliant because depending which store I go pick up water, because usually I'll pick it up at the supermarket. But if I run out, I'll go down, down to the corner store, and dude does stack up, his cases of water right there by the window. That I never would have thought that. But I know I've used Poland Spring in the past and never had an issue with that water. And it was just one of those things. After it happened, it was just too late. What are you gonna do? Just chalk it up, as a learning lesson and keep going forward.
Yeah, hopefully that you didn't lose a bunch of good strains there that you had to fork out some nice cash for.
Yeah,
That's that's a loss. That's a loss. 15.
yeah,
That hurts.
yeah, for sure. It did, and it definitely did hurt. You know what I mean? Uh, I got at least a couple of plants off each strain except one. One strain was 6 seeds, and all 6 was a total loss. And that's what really hurts is that one. You know what I mean? Like the other ones, even if I planted 10 seeds, it's happened in the past. You have a high male ratio, or something. A cat comes by and decides it wants to chew on your seedlings. I've had it everything happen to me. But as long as there's a few, and at least one of those is a female, you know what I'm saying? One or two, then it's not too bad for me. But once or twice, I had like last time happen, like where a whole pack, you don't even have one survivor out of it, and like, oh shit, what are you gonna do now? Buy that pack again, or you're just gonna move on? You know what I mean? Usually I move on, because I just get frustrated because sometimes I think it just wasn't meant to be for me to grow that. You know what I mean? So I just keep moving forward.
I agree. If I get that kind of results, I usually move on myself. That's totally the way I look at it too. It's just not meant to be. Might as well move on.
It's like sometimes you're just pushing a back against karma, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Or serendipity, or I can't think of the word right now, but it's just some things. And I also look, where I live in New England, right at sea level. Some strains, I have no issue with, and they grow beautiful. And others just are miserable here. So I really believe where you live, has quite a bit to do with what you're growing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. And furthermore on that germination rate thing is, it's sometimes I guess I look at it in two ways. Just like you said, it only if I'm working with the same breeder, you know what I mean. Maybe if it doesn't crack and I have bad rates like that, I will view it as maybe not meant to be. But if it's like a breeder that I've yet to work with or something like that, then it's usually I kind of cross off. You know what I mean? Because I'm always like, maybe that's not a good one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And kind of move on.
I
So
know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you mean. And like you said, I'm the same way, because you get so pumped up that you're going to grow that. You know what I mean? You've bought the seeds, you're hyped up. A lot of times, especially if you're already growing and you got plants in cycle, once you buy the seeds, you got to put them aside, so you're really looking forward to popping that pack. And then for it to go left like that, it just gets a little disgusting sometimes. And it's like, oh, well, put it behind you and, you can concentrate. It may not have been your favorite strain of the run, or maybe it was, and a lot of times it seems to be like the one that I really like. I really want to see what this is about. I really want to see what's in that seed, and then something goes left, or I end up with a real bad male to female ratio, which now I'm trying to change my outlook on that because I'd like to make a little personal seed. You know what I mean? Especially now with what happened with TGA and all, what happened with sub and stuff like that. I'd like to do just a little bit of seed preservation for myself, because I see a lot of people out there doing it, and I don't blame them. It's all for the same reason. Um, is that going to be around in a couple of years? Are they going to just drop it? So I mean, through the years, I've seen TGA drop quite a few strains. And they've always had their meat and potatoes, the Agent Orange, the Jelly Bean, the Jack the Ripper, the Quirkle, But then there's stuff like Grim Reaper, Black Dahlia, where they just pop up for maybe 6 months, and now you don't see them anymore, or if you do, it's on some seed seed site for big bucks.
yeah, I don't know where to weigh in on that, Roy. Uh, I have some uh, some opinions on that that may go against the grain of what you know people may or may not want to hear. So I don't know where to weigh in on that one. To be very honest with you.
Yep. Now, what about for the grow off there, the Agent Orange and the Jelly Beans? Are those F2, or are those the
Those are
usual?
F1s.
No
They
way,
would be
huh?
the F1s. The ones that Jill actually are producing currently are F2s from TGA. Most of everything that they running over there are F2s, kind of recreated from the mess. And that's, I guess, here we go down that rabbit hole. And that's kind of what will, if V and Will are able to get anything going, that's what will be put forth by them is F2s to be bred by Will and Vic. As far as I know, or some other team, they won't be bred by the original team. So take that for whatever it's worth. The only one, as far as my knowledge, that has original stock to work with is Badger, and I don't know if he's working with it. And I know that North Star was producing gear for Sub in the pinch there, but I think that came a point where he destroyed his males because of the
Oh wow.
mess, and just so hopefully you can read into that and answer your own questions.
Oh yeah. Have you grown quite a bit of the Agent Orange?
I grew it when it was like 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. When it was, the F1s. I'm expecting what you should get from the Agent Orange should be a good yielding plant, heavy in the orange terps, uh, more along the like burnt or rotten orange kind of terps, not towards the citrus, but heavy orange toward leading towards the burnt or rotten end, which is very good. Great smoke. I mean, all in all, it's a great smoke. Heavy on the orange terps. Uh, should be everybody should be very pleased with what they get with the Agent Orange.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm on the same boat as you. That was the very first like seed I bought. You know what I mean? Like besides growing bag seed, and it was about 14 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, '05, '06. I ordered a 5 pack of Agent Orange, a 5 pack of Jack the Ripper, a 5 pack of JC Cleaner 2. And you know what I'm saying? My first grow, like, for quality seed, I didn't get a light yet. Basically, I was living in a second floor apartment in the middle of a city. You know what I'm saying? And I had this nice size porch, on the second floor. And I had flowers, how those flower pots, those long beds that you screw onto the rail. And I had that, with marigolds and all that stuff. And on the floor, I had a bunch of 3-gallon mop buckets, with seeds. And I put them out there, I vegged them till about 18 inches, just like I read in High Times. And when they got to about 18 inches, I'd bring them in. I'd put them out 5:30 in the morning, and then I'd take them back in about 5:30 at night and pile them into this empty bedroom I had. And when I tried that smoke, I mean, just doing that, I mean, now you got to remember this is like '05. You know what I mean? I used Miracle Grow, straight Miracle Grow dirt with soil mix. I cut it 50-50, and I was feeding it tomato food, Miracle Grow tomato food. You know, it was just to see if I could pull it off, if I could actually grow. And when it did, and I tried out the smoke and stuff, I was hooked. I was hooked on growing. That's when I went on eBay. I picked up a couple of used Stowies, 2 of them, and that's when I started running inside. You know, but what I was getting at was, you ever find the blockhead pheno of the Agent Orange? Because most of the phenos have these spears for flowers, these spear-shaped buds. But there's this pheno you come by once in a while. It used to be talked on the forums a lot. I used to hang on Breve quite a bit back then too. That's where I learned most of my knowledge. Because as you know, I mean, it was hard to come by back then. And even in the forum, Sub would bring it up, because back then that was one of his first solid strains that I know of. You know what I mean? He always talked about and pushed was the Agent Orange, the Jack the Ripper, and the Jilly Bean. And it was this thing that Sub would call the blockhead pheno. And instead of a spear shaped flower, it would be a square top to it, and it'd be kind of fat squarish too on top. Like it'd be fatter on top, square, and then it taper off as it came down. And I just noticed, like, if I believe correctly, um, that's depending on what you like. It is, a little bit rarer than the spare ones. And if you do come by it, if you do like it, it's worth holding on to. I'm kind of hoping that I cross, that it's meant to be that I find that thing again. That's why I asked you if it was F2s or F1s on the AO.
Yeah, that'd be nice to get that blockhead. I didn't have it. I had the spear when I ran it, but I definitely know what you're talking about. And yeah, the chances of finding that are pretty good because they are F1s. I was waiting for everybody to ask on that because I was very prepared for it. I was actually waiting for her to come try to discredit it. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of Jill's way. But yeah, so far so good. It's been so far
Nice.
so good on all that.
Well, I figure, with the grow off, and everybody in chat, which what's up to everybody in chat? I can't see chat, so I can't read it. But what's up, guys? But I figure anybody that's growing Agent Orange on the grow off, between all of us, I'm hoping at least one of those pop off. You know what I'm saying? And it'd be nice to revisit it and see, if it's still, to me, if that pops up, then I really believe that you're still dealing with some of the original, original plants he was using back then. You know what I'm saying? Or very close to, for you to be finding the same phenos at the same ratios, with the same terps and because Agent Orange here back then it was killer. I mean, it wasn't no mids back by those standards. I mean, these days there's a lot of crazy weed there. You got 15 years later, people breed and things are supposed to get better. But back then, I mean, people just love that. I mean, that was spoken for second week of it in my room, and the whole thing was just spoken for. Because of that plant, I had to learn how to clone, because I had to keep it around. So I tried a bunch of different stuff, and it took me a long time, but I finally learned how to clone, and I always managed to save one. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to growing a jelly bean because that's one strain I've never really grown. I've grown crosses with jelly in it, but I've never grown pure jelly bean. So I'm really looking forward to that too.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody pop them seeds. So far, it's been amazing seeing everybody drop them all at once. I know I've got quite a few popping over here. I think I've got two jelly beans coming up, two Agent Hordes, and all five of my sangrias are up so far. I guess it's funny because Smiley, I didn't, I originally when I thought about it, I was only going to go with one kind, and I never really hit me that if I got up into the all phases of it, that I should probably be represented in all phases of it. Till Smiley said something, and I was like, oh shit. You're right. I guess I should kind of weigh in on all of them. So I did end up dropping a few of each, few of each.
Nice, nice. I was gonna pop mine on Sub's birthday, but I just didn't want to pop them too early because, like I said, I still got about 5 more days of veg and flour, and then I'm gonna flip to flour. And I don't use CO2, so 8 out of 10 times, if the strain says it's an 8-week strain, I usually take it to 10 weeks. I like to see the hairs back, and then more importantly, it's the swollen. For me, it's all about the swollen calyxes and making sure all the clear heads are gone. I mean, I'm really not big into the speedy buzzes.
Thank you. Finally, somebody after my own heart. Oh, it's not too often that I hear that voice, Roy. It's really not. uh, most of the young, I guess novice growers, we can, I'll say, even intermediate, I'll say, like to harvest way on the other end of that. And to me, man, that's way before the swell, way before a nice bud swell, and you're just cheating yourself out of a whole lot of flower there if you pull that early. And I'll be honest, it took me, I'll say, a good 5 years before I realized the difference myself. But once I realized what I was missing out on, it sure didn't take me much time to change my attitude. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, to me, I learned that a long time ago. I mean, you're taking it to 8 weeks. Even if you're taking it, you got a long pheno and you're at 10 weeks, and it's most of your room. It behoove you to take it to 12. Now if you only have one plant, say out of 12 plants, you got one that's going, 10 weeks and she's still not swelling, but everything else is already swollen. You see a touch of amber, all the other heads are cloudy. Then sure, you want to chop her early. It's only one plant and you don't want to hold back your room. But if 80% or more of my room has to go 12 weeks, I'll take it, because those last 2 weeks, whether it's week from 8 to 10 or 10 to 12, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes a little bit more if you're growing sativas, that calyx swell, that's the difference of losing either 70% when it's drying or losing 85% when it's dry. You know what I mean? To me, that's what really rocks. I mean, you got some of those hard strains these days where they're tight and they're hard regardless. But for a lot of, to me, a lot of the older strains and even a lot of the stuff now that are flavorful and got, you know, uh, a good mixture, that, let's say it has the structure of more, leaning a little bit more towards the sativa side, the banana colas, and the calyxes, a little area. You got to let them those calyxes swell up and fill out, because to me, that's where you're going to lock in the rest of your weight. You know what I mean? Now you can use a ripener, and I could see why some people like getting it a little earlier, because they're really not going to gain anything while the heads are turning colors. Except to me, a better high. Unless you like that racy stuff, which back in prohibition we really didn't have a choice. And that's why we smoked racy weed. And as soon as it stopped putting on weight, that's it, cut and move in the next set. Cut, move in the next set. But to me, like I said, and I still believe while you're waiting, like because I've heard people already, I've seen a lot of talk now of people chopping, like, just when their hairs go back. They don't wait for that swell. And you see, yeah, when some of their hairs go back, you do get a little bit of swelling, but you won't get the full swell on the bottom. The colas that are a little lower, at least from what I see. You know, I mean, I really like taking it, especially after all that time. I mean, it's such a sin to cut it down early, and I recommend to anybody that's always chopped. I mean, never look at the day. You use the day, the weeks on the pack as a roundabout. 8 week strain. All right, you're gonna have to take that at least 8 weeks. And if you see it ain't ready, do yourself a favor. Take it another 14 days, just once. And I guarantee if you do, it'd be real hard for you to go back unless you like the high of a clearer heads, that racy high. And you know, that's pretty much it that I can see. You lose a little more, you lose a little weight, but the buzz is just totally different. It's just that racy, doesn't last long, doesn't have legs on it. You know what I mean? It won't go 2 3 hours. Type of grass you'll probably be smoking every half hour if you're chopping early. But that's my opinion, though, because now these days, with the legality now, and you got kids going to school for it, which, I mean, and there's a lot of bro science out there. But I still like listening to most of the old timers. Like, I'll take the advice of someone who's grown 30 years hands on. I'll listen to them before someone who just got out of college a year or two ago and knows a bunch of stuff in theory. You know what I mean? And all the experience they've had is maybe 3 runs in a 3x3. That's since the 2 years since they graduated. Very book smart. But I really believe when it comes to cannabis, it is a special plant. You don't see people going nuts to grow tomatoes in their house. You don't see them going nuts to grow marigolds in their house or even poppies, opium, nothing like that. Cannabis, it's its own kind of plant. You know what I mean? And if there's anything that would go against regular, you know, standard information that say someone would learn out of a book, I really believe cannabis is the plant that would go against it.
I agree. It goes for just about everything. Hands-on experiences and definitely required for the plant. And as far as you kind of mentioned about information being out there, it is very much a glorious time for people that are just willing to jump in on this. Man, I talk about that all the time. People like a Wolverine grower and some of these other younger cats. Hopefully that doesn't offend anybody, but you know, checking in, good 15 years behind me. I'm closer to 20, so I guess it's all right. So, you know, uh, but killing it because they didn't have to search and be afraid to search for information. I remember back in the day, just to go buy a High Times magazine, it was damn near close to buying porn. You had to look over your shoulder, it was behind the counter. Can I please see that? You know what I'm saying? And it's things are a lot different. There's tons and tons of great information out there, and these guys are just taking it and running with it. Taking things to a whole new level, and I'm stoked about to see where they're going to take it. To be honest with you, it's definitely a glorious time for this planet.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And it's when it comes to growers like that, to me, you know, nobody's born a professional, and in anything, some people just learn a little quicker than others. But anything can be learned as long as you don't quit on yourself. I'm a firm believer at that. Does someone need to be growing 15 years to be just as good? Someone that could learn quick could get it in 5 or under, especially with all the info that's out there. To me, there's too much info. There's a lot of bunk out there too. But just all the info, and even just as little as 3, 4 years ago, a lot of these secrets, like Wolverine Grower, GML, I see them sharing a lot of tips that only 2, 3 years ago you'd have to go buy a $500 book if you wanted to know. These were like things that growers, even in the forums, would keep close to their chest. They wouldn't tell nobody. They'd show the pictures. You'd hear the numbers they were pulling from a light, and they weren't lying by the way the plants looked. You know what I mean? But it was just info like that was so guarded. You know what I mean? Because it was very valuable. You could pounds are going for 5,000, between 5 and 7,000. All right, just say that. You know, and now a way to squeeze a whole other pound from a regular run without growing a bigger strain or nothing like that, just by cultivating that plant better with a few things, few tricks you learn, or make the smoke a little better and make your stuff the primo, versus the competition. It was guarded very tightly, and like I said, just a few years ago, people were buying that 3 A Light book. What is that thing? That thing, I heard that thing's anywhere from, what was it, $300 to $500, maybe more. You know what I mean? I've seen people pull one out here and there. I think it was on the Dude Grows a few months ago. Some guy was on there and he had the light. I mean the book, but then also the equipment now too. The equipment. I think more it's the nutrients. You know what I'm saying? It's just everything advanced quickly. But the biggest thing right now is if you know the right people to follow, the ones that share the information freely, legit information, not like theory, things that they use on their everyday grow to get results. You can learn quick and you can learn big. And like for people like me that grew for over 10 years and just couldn't break a certain number, and they just mentioned something, and it makes me look at the plant all different, or how I'm feeding it totally different. And it's like, holy shit, is that it? You know what I mean? And it's just great times. And not worry, not having to worry to go to jail or have your kids taken away, you know, or the pigs knocking down your door, with rifles and your kids getting PTSD. You know what I'm saying? And now you're facing going to 2 years, mandatory 2 years because you're growing a plant for yourself. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's awesome. It's just I never thought it was going to happen in my lifetime. I always was like someday, but realistically, you know what I mean? And then when it did happen, it just moved so quickly that even now it's I wouldn't say too good to be true, but it's just all those years of it being illegal. You still, to me, I liken it to like a little bit of PTSD. You just the hairs stick up in the back of your neck, and you got to remind yourself that, hey, wait a minute, you know, what do I have to fear? I'm a card carrying patient. This person, say you got a neighbor that's harassing you or a landlord, you know what I mean? You got to know your rights. You know, this was a hard won victory, very hard one, and don't let nobody step on.
I agree. My good friend there, American one, wanted me to tell you hello. He says that the Good Earth crew is here.
Right on. What's up, fellas? I miss the Good Earth crew. I'd hang out with them guys every night for a good 2 3 years, and then like I said, this last 6 7 months, I just had a bunch of shit happen personally that it's just nuts. I mean, to me it doesn't usually happen to most people, and it's like I'm just one of them people. I'll say that when things go good, they go real good. But when things go bad, holy shit, it's almost unbelievably bad, and that's what I just pulled out of the last few months, you know.
Yeah, it's sad though. I mean, even in the hard times, we should be able to, still hold our head up and say hello, whatever. I know things get bad, but sometimes, we need that. Hey, what? You, you and I both know that sometimes it's just great to have feel that, how you doing, you know, and can't be afraid to, even though times are tough to say, check in and say hello. That's for sure. Even though
I
sometimes it can be tough.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely do. But to me, sometimes it's like I said, once in a while, people have bad days, But like I feel when things start coming back to back, I mean, it would seem like every time you talk to somebody, it's just you'd have another piece of bad news to say. And, you know, with with this year, and usually even if it wasn't this year, life has its ups and downs, and for the most of us, nobody has it made, everybody has their good days, everybody has their bad days. And to me, I just didn't want to get misconstrued as being too much negativity. You know what I mean? And personally, I was dealing with it at the time. You know what I mean? So the 1 or 2 hours at the end of the night when I had it to myself, I just had to put it all together in my head and figure out what to do, what was next. The last thing I wanted to do after dealing with things for 18 hours was to think about it for another 2 more hours and explain it, but not even explain it. That's the wrong word. Venting about it to someone else. It wasn't time for it. I think it will be. Usually me, it takes a while, and I talk about things, a little bit after, but when things get real bad like that, I don't know if it's a kind of survival mode or whatever, and you just tend to just do what you need to do, you know what I mean, to keep things moving forward and in a positive way, you know. And I really believe that, But like I said, it's more on
You know,
one,
I
you know,
used to believe that, brother. I used to believe that. Same thing, wholeheartedly, because I've been there. I've been there. And what I found in that is Yeah, you can do that and tough it out, but that end does that shit turn you cold and eat you up. And sometimes in my case, I was that person for a very long time. Didn't want to ask anybody a shit, and sometimes you're right. When it does happen, it steamrolls, and nobody likes to admit that point in their life that it just seems to be you know shot after shot after shot. But man, it just them are the times I'm referring to where you don't even have to vent. Sometimes you just kind of maybe keep it to yourself, but check in and just know that yeah, there's other people out there that give a shit, and sometimes people know when other people out there and they give a shit just can change the mood. Just changing that vibration can kind of change the whole fucking thing. For sure, it can put it in a whole other direction. Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just I can I definitely feel you though. Sometimes it can be a bitch to feel. I most definitely have been there to where I just feel like it's hard to fucking even say anything today because something else happened. I'm being just as vague, but I know I know, bro. I definitely feel that shit. But
Well,
I can tell you from experience, reaching out and just being who you are can be immense. Into the you got to realize too, just like you said, everybody has bad days. You know, and there's some of us that are better at not showing it than others, but everybody has them. Everybody needs help at some point. Some of us are better at letting on and receiving it and whatnot, but everybody has them. Everybody has them. I feel like that goes right along with like almost the same person that says they don't or haven't masturbated at some point. You're a liar. You're a liar. If you say you ain't had a bad day or touched yourself at point, liar, liar on both points.
no comment. Oh man.
So yeah.
The one thing I am glad is that I'm older and wiser because what you mentioned, the anger, that's where you could get into trouble, and letting things burn you up instead of realizing that, hey, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And some people just get hit harder than others, and but I also believe um, this little community of ours, and our friends that we meet in that, I really believe a lot of us are a lot more similar if we don't realize it. I think a lot of us do realize it. And that's why we get along so good. You know what I mean? And you see the same names in chat and different chat after chat. And you're not the one referring them to this, how do they find this live or that live? And you start seeing the same names. And to me, it's it's just one of those things, where life and the world just brings certain people together that maybe think the same or need to hear something at that time. And I really believe, these last few years were a time for that, and it still is. Where these, where these shows just came out of nowhere, and like the round table, the grow tube, and that before 2 3 years ago, that was shows like that. I mean, you had cannabis YouTube channels, but to have a bunch of people on, I don't know if it was because the technology was still lacking and it wasn't there, or people still were nervous and they didn't want to come out of their shell, because things weren't so free yet, which we're not 100% there yet, but we still got a lot of people in state. There's only 33 medical states, I believe, in 11 rec, and most that are rec are already medical. But so that still leaves a good, what is it, about 10 to 12 that are still red completely, and it's, you know, we've been there, we know what it's like, but let me get back on subject. Like I said, it's just it is great times, you know what I'm saying? For the most part, you know what I'm saying? It is. And I know I appreciate it. You know, I if I'm not on actually talking in chat, I know I have it on the radio or playing on the screen while I'm doing my gardening. You know, it took a hobby that usually you are very alone or by yourself by nature because you don't want to tell too many people. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like I have a lot of good friends and a lot of good friends that I grew up with, but I'm and a lot of them smoke pot. I mean, 9 out of 10 of them do, but none of them grow. And it's like, wow, out of 20 people I grew up with that smoke every single day, I'm the only one that's gardening right now, you know? And they're pretty open. They may grow a plant for shits and giggles in the yard, but for some reason the bug hasn't bit them yet, or maybe the bug has bit them, but some people throw caution to the wind and some don't. And I still see that even though it's legal and even though there's stores, it's very much in certain communities it's still shunned at. You know what I mean? People don't want to know. They don't want other people to know that they smoke cannabis. You know what I mean? Never mind grow it. Even if it is legal, it's just that scarlet letter, the big red C or the big green C on the shirt. You know what I'm saying? And I have friends like that too. And it's a shame. It is a shame. Life's too short to really, if you got people around you that are judging you and looking at you negatively because you like cannabis instead of alcohol or even anything, you know what I mean? That you choose to do what you want. I know there's times I smoke more cannabis, and then I also know there were times like when things got ugly that I laid off of it for a while. Just I wanted to make sure that I could say, hey, when I made this decision, you know, I I had 110% behind it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the way of the world, and I'm just taking conversations, steering it here and there. But um yeah, I'll poke out the joint right now. But
So we kind of jumped into it heavy there. You want to start a little bit? I got to flip back and forth. Uh, when did you start with smoking the plant, or when did you start?
I started smoking 19. I was a freshman in high school. I was 14, 1987, and I skipped school with a buddy of mine. You know what I mean? And the kid came from a little rough. I wouldn't suggest that to nobody now. You know what I'm saying? But he came across a hash pipe and some roaches that someone happened to leave in their ashtray, and they decided to leave their car unlocked. So, my buddy decided to liberate it, and we went down to the beach. And it was the very first time I smoked. I remember it. I remember the pipe. I remember it clearly. You know what I'm saying? And I took about 3, 4 hits, and I remember telling him, "I don't feel nothing," you know. And then 2 minutes later, I started giggling. And then he's like, "Do you feel like this, and this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're stoned, bro." So, but that year I probably smoked twice. That was the first time. And there was a time closer towards the summer. I didn't have no connections yet, nothing like that. Sophomore year, I started smoking a little bit more, and it was towards the end of sophomore year where I started forming relationships with other stoners in school, and had a place to where I could go, cop a bag, you know what I'm saying, and have my smoke to party with, and it just made me feel better. And looking back now, I was just medicating myself, because back then, people didn't diagnose everything, Uh, uh, looking back now, I don't know if it was for ADD or whatever the heck it was, but I do know that once I smoked, I worked better. I could focus. My mind wasn't everywhere, You know what I'm saying? And it motivate me. You know what I'm saying? So it was like I wouldn't smoke and not want to do anything, like just be lazy on the couch. You know, I did hit a phase like that a few years later, where where excess, those years of excess when you're young and you think it's cool to smoke a quarter or a half ounce, and you're still a young kid, by yourself, maybe with another friend, but you're smoking 7, 8, 9, 10 joints a day. You know what I mean? You just smoke. Like I was always the type I'd smoke, and then when I'd feel that nice buzz, I'd poke it out. You know what I mean? Now I wouldn't look at how much I was smoking because back then, we'd get what we'd get, whatever was coming in. And because back then in the 80s, I mean, 87, 88, 89, even in 1990 where I lived, if people grew weed, you'd rather smoke the brick that was coming in instead of what people were growing in their yard. I mean, just homegrown just had a bad reputation. It was basically someone who took the brick seed and threw it in their yard and decided to grow. And they're trying to grow these, sativas and whatever, in places. A lot of times it'd be, like I said, I remember one time, I think in 89, there was a dry spell and some dude was literally selling, diced up cannabis leaves, for $35 for, I think, 3 grams or something like that. And I was still gullible enough and still new enough to smoke that I was buying it. But then, like I said, the end of sophomore year, when junior year kicked in, I got my first job. I had steady cash. I had a steady connection. And that's also when I had a lot of people coming to me now, so a lot of people that were having their first time smoking, they just happened, I don't know. I just happened to be around them, I guess. I wasn't the type to push anything on anybody because I always thought, you offer something to somebody, but if they say no, then that's it. I never thought pushing something on somebody, anything, whether booze, pot, anything was cool. You know what I mean? So I never did that. But I just noticed a lot of people were coming to me. So I took advantage of it. And where I had the connections, I'd get a little bit more than what I needed, and break them off some. And I tended to smoke for free. And I did that for years. And like I said, I didn't stop. So now I graduated in 92. So I started smoking on the regular 91, I would say 90, 91, and through my whole life I did. I think I quit for 6 months when I went in the army just through boot camp. You know, I stopped through boot camp. But even in the army, I mean, it was like a job. I was in there from like 95, end of 94 to like 97. So yeah, I mean, I think it was 3 to 6 months since that whole time that I went without smoking at all, but I'd still smoke a little bit. And that's where I learned a lot about piss tests and stuff like that and how to get around them and all that good stuff. But yeah, I just kept burning, 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 burning. And then 05, 06, I still try thinking like, what possessed me to want to grow my own weed? You know what I mean? It wasn't like I always wanted to grow it. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of those things, and I still can't think about it. I don't know. Was it destiny? Was it fate? I don't know. I just know one day I decided to grow and I liked what I grew. And once you grow your own grass and it's 10 times better than anything you're paying money for, you tend not to want to go back to buying it. And that's what I've done. I did have to stop. I had a grow room fire back, I believe it was 08, 09. It was around there. But I had a huge disaster. I mean, the grow room, I grew for 2 years straight. No problems at all. No problems at all. And on the second year, we had a cold winter and it was just getting cold in the room. And I seen these little 2 electric heaters, but they were small. They weren't like the big ones that stand up in the room. These things literally were like maybe 5 by 8 inches. You know what I mean? They were little small squares. So I plugged 2 of them into this little freaking 18 gauge cord, which is like a Christmas cord, you know, those little cheap white extension cords you find at the dollar store, not knowing that each one of those fans were pulling 750 watts a piece. So I plugged 1500 watts into that one white cord. Now, mind you, my whole bedroom wasn't pushing 1500 watts. I had 1000 watt HPS pushing maybe 1100. Um, I had the T5 fluorescence, you know, that wasn't even 300 watts, and some fans, you know what I mean? And that was it. So I was pushing, if I was pushing 1500 watts in the whole room, the whole grow, veg and flower, it wasn't by much, you know, maybe 1550 watts. And later on, after the fire, I found out those two little fans that my dumbass plugged in were 1500 watts, you know, and the cord melted through the night. Thank God my little daughter woke me up. I think it was 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, telling me that her TV wasn't working, you know, because she usually get up early to watch cartoons. And as soon as she said that, my something, you know, snapped in my head saying, oh shit, that's the grow room, you know? So I popped out of bed, you know, to fix the TV for her and to go find out what was wrong with the grow room. I opened up the bedroom, thick black smoke, dude. I couldn't even see it. But you know, I went right up to it and thank God I kept the res. I had this 15-gallon brute bucket full of Newt's water, and that's what I used to poke it out, you know. And but when I went to air out the room and all that black smoke poured out the side of the windows, like I said, I lived in the, you know, in the downtown of a city, and it was either a walker by or a neighbor, you know, called they called the fire department. But the fire department, as soon as they're dispatched, the cop comes too. So, yep, that time. So I had to shut down, stop growing for about 3 years. So I didn't grow, but I was still on the forum. You know, it wasn't one of those things where I lost, like, I don't know. It just the way, like that shitty thing going through court, knowing there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, now you got to remember this is 2009, so this, you know, there was quite a few more states that were legal. I believe Rhode Island still wasn't legal. I No, wait a minute. I think they were. I think Rhode Island was already medical, and that's only 10 minutes away from where I lived. You know, so I didn't think it was no big deal. You know, but yeah. So from 2009 to 2011, 2012, I didn't grow. The tail end, middle of 2012, I started growing again till now.
Man, that's crazy. I'm glad you guys made it out alive. You know, nothing. You know, could have been much worse. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, the trouble that came with that. Man, it, you know, trouble involved and everything else. It did turn out, you know, somewhat for the better. It sucks that the police had to be involved, though.
Oh yeah, dude. I was facing a mandatory minimum of 2 years because it was less than 1,000 feet from a playground and technically a school because the playground was across the street from the school. You know, and when you live in a city, if you even in any city, they made that law. Take a look at, you know what I mean? Take a look at those maps that show, you know, where there's a school or a public park. You know what I'm saying? And then measure out, you know, a radius of 1,000 feet. You know what I mean? And see how much space you actually have that ain't in that shaded area. You know what I mean? I lucked out, bro. I belong going to jail. What happened is, you know, going back to know your rights. You know what I mean? The firefighter wanted to come in. I had poked out the fire, and by the time they got there, the room was relatively already cleared out of smoke. There wasn't smoke pouring out the windows. That happened like the first 5 minutes, and I had the fans blowing out, so it aired out the room. The smell was still there, you know, but the room aired out quick. You know what I mean? And the firefighter wanted to come in, and I refused them entrance. I said no. I don't want you to come in the house. He's like, oh, I just want to take a safety check. You know, your neighbors are seeing smoke come out the window. I told him it was a grease fire. I said, oh, that was a grease fire. I poked it out. And he's like, look, but you know, he was just really insistent. And I was insistent on telling him no, no, no. But I didn't know about fires. I didn't know. I know to tell you don't let a cop in unless they have a search warrant. You never give a cop permission. I didn't know where the hell it lied with a firefighter. You know what I mean? And then the firefighter said, look, I'm just going to take a quick look and I'll be out. And so I'm like, all right, hurry up. So he walked in the kitchen and dude, you know what I mean? There wasn't no grease fire in the kitchen. There was no pan. You know, the kitchen was clean, immaculate, no smell of smoke, nothing. So he's like, it doesn't look like nothing happened here. I said, I told you, I already aired it out. I cleaned it up. You know, you must have got that call. I don't know why the neighbor called. You know, he must have waited. I don't know. You know, that's what I was telling him. So he turns to walk out, and the bedroom where I had the grow, he could see the soot marks that came out the top. I had the bedroom locked, but uh, the smoke came out the bedroom door and left soot marks on the molding. And he pointed right at it. He's like, what's that? I said, what's what? You know, I played dumb. And he's all, that. I'm like, I don't know, dirt. He's like, no, that ain't dirt. And he rubbed his finger. He's all, that soot. And he checked the door and the door's locked, you know? And he's like, what's in there? And I'm like, that's my bedroom. You know what I mean? I was really aggravated with him, you know, because I wanted him to split. And he's all, I have to look in there. He's like, that's soot. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, I don't want to let you in my bedroom. That's my bedroom. It's private. Da 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 da. You know. And then he's like, look, he's like, you know, and at that time the cop was outside. You know, and that's when he said, look, if you don't let me in, I'm gonna go get the officer to let me in. And I said, you do what you got to do. I ain't letting you in that room. That's my bedroom. That's my privacy. You know. Sure as shit, he left my apartment. Now he came upstairs with the cop. Mind you, the second time they entered my apartment, now the door's wide open. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, kids are crying. My girl's freaking out. You know, she's calm. You know, I'm trying to calm them down. They went down, the firefighter went downstairs, came up with the cop, walked right into my apartment. The cop didn't ask me if he could come in my apartment. And dude, that one fucking mistake, bro, saved me 2 years in jail. You know, everything they found, the plants, they found 16 grown plants, 16 clones. So that was 30, 32 plants. Everything they found, the judge said they couldn't hold it against me. He told the DA that, and the DA was pissed. You know, the DA could still go forward with charges because my dumb ass, you know, once I knew the jig was up, I didn't have money for lawyers. You know what I'm saying? So I was still young. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't, you know, they started threatening taking my kids away and everything if I didn't cooperate with them, like talk to them and tell them what was going on. I mean, it just ain't like ratting on nobody. I ratted on myself, you know? And I just said, look, yeah, I do grow, but it's medically, it's for me and it's for my fiance. And, you know, so I had admitted that the judge let stay, you know? So it goes to show, keep your mouth shut. You know, they talking ain't gonna let you out. You're gonna spend the weekend in jail or whatever. Keep your mouth shut. Because the only reason the DA went forward and I had to go through 2 years of fucking back and forth was because I had told him, I admitted to growing. Because the judge said everything, all the evidence that the police grabbed was illegal. Because the judge said once they came up, the officer should have asked to come into my apartment. And as soon as if I said no, he should have secured a warrant. You know, he was supposed to tape off the scene. If I refused him entrance, you know what I'm saying? And he thought something was illegal in there. He was supposed to tape off the scene and request a warrant, and even ask what he thought on the warrant, what he wanted to find up in my house. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't do none of that. The cop walked right in the house. You know, he's like, what's in there? You know? And I was like, that's my bedroom. He's like, open it now. Just like that. And I'm like, that's my privacy. He's like, look, don't give me no shit. He's like, you got kids. You want to give me a hard time? I can make your life hell for you right now. And as soon as he brought up my kids, my girl was fucking almost passing out. The kids crying. You know, the kids till this day have PTSD over that shit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I opened up the door and they seen it. But everything got thrown out. You know what I'm saying? So because they didn't ask permission, you know. But yeah, that was a tough one, man. Because still, you know, because I admitted to growing, you know what I'm saying, and I had a court-appointed lawyer. It took about a year and a half of me going back and forth to court, you know, and finally I pled guilty to possession. Now it went from cultivating in a school zone, federal minimum 2 years, minimum mandatory 2 years, got dropped down to possession of Class D with intent to distribute, and I pled guilty to that. And I got six. It was either 6 or 12 months probation, a little fine, and they that was it. You know what I mean? I still did, and it was misdemeanor. I wasn't labeled a felon. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't going to plead guilty to felony charges. That's, I mean, if you're going to be labeled a felon, you know, your life is shit and gone anyway. That's what I was thinking. You know, I had a state license. You know, I'm a state licensed plumber. You know, if I become a felon, the state yanks my license. There goes my living. There goes everything. So I was like, it was all or nothing. You know what I'm saying? And sure as shit, as soon as he dropped it from felony to misdemeanor, I took it. And that was it. End of that. Life moves on.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild story. Thank you very much for sharing because there's a lot of good points there. Very much. A lot of lessons to be learned, especially the not talking. People are very, you know, they feel like they have to, or they actually, the police are very good at tricking you into coaching information out of you and getting you to and incriminate yourself into stupid bullshit that, and that's the thing too. You can say something and it can just give them enough of an in to you further fuck yourself, and if need be. But yeah, your best bet is just not to fucking say nothing, and know a little bit of your rights. Try to know as much of your rights as possible. But there's any lawyer will talk to you on on a free basis consultation. But almost all of them will tell you just, hey, keep your mouth shut until you talk to somebody. But moreover, I want to hear, including the fire and the law stuff. Can you hand out some good advice here for what you learned through this whole mess?
Through getting arrested for having a grow room and stuff like that. A
Well,
lesson on
and
that.
the fire too. I mean, yeah, I mean, the fire's obvious. I mean, you should
The, the fi-
always check numbers. When you're plugging stuff in, running stuff for sure, right?
Always check numbers. Always have this is first and foremost before you even bring one piece of equipment. Bring in a tent or anything. The first thing that should go up is a smoke detector. The second thing you should get is a fire extinguisher. Because let me tell you, if that reservoir wasn't there, I lived in an apartment building with 4 other apartments with families that were sleeping and everything. And looking back, that's a lot to carry if things really, really went bad. You know what I'm saying? I lucked out because I had a full reservoir literally less than a foot away from the tent, and it was a plastic fire. I used tops. I used the panda film on the inside, and then I used like this top they sell at Home Depot that's a dark brown on one side and a gray on the other, and I wrapped the outside of the frame with that for it to be light tight. So it wasn't like a flame fire; it was a smoldering fire. But what I say is, and ever since then, I'm looking at it right now, is a fire extinguisher and a working smoking alarm. You know what I mean? That will literally save your life and save the life of your family. You know what I mean? And right off the back, legally, You know what I'm saying? Know the wattage of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Don't bypass safety devices and get safety devices. Get, these days you could go to, I think it's like $7, $8. You could get a power strip that has a breaker on there. If you have 2, 3 breakers, that's all right. So you don't have to go all the way to the panel and switch out the breaker. You know what I'm saying? To flip the breaker if something pops. If something pops, you have too much juice there. Something's wrong. You know what I mean? Don't buy something else, or don't try to figure a way to squeeze any more electricity. That's already too much because it's tripping something. You know what I'm saying? Um, know the wattage of what you're running. Safety devices, don't bypass that. The fire suppression stuff, definitely, definitely. I mean, because you're using electricity. Look for burn marks. That's something I did see. Even though that didn't cause the fire, something. I had an old fuse box at that apartment. It wasn't a breaker. It was those old fuses that you screw in. And the tenant before me put like these monster fuses in there. Like, even like I said, this is all looking back because my aunt owned the home. You know what I'm saying? And for insurance reasons and everything, and the cops didn't know it, the firefighters didn't know it. But my aunt told my mother exactly what had gone wrong. Someone, which was prior to me, because they asked if I was the one who did it, and I said no. But basically, instead of 30 amp fuses, there was 100 amp fuses in that old, panel. So when the fire started, something should have tripped and stopped it. Even when it got too hot to cause a fire, something should have tripped and stopped that. As soon as the plastic melts on the wire and those two wires arc together, instead of it burning down the tent, that should have flipped the switch and killed the juice to that. And it didn't. So yeah, that's what I would say. Safety. Don't bypass safety devices. That's very important. As far as law, especially now, because you got to remember, even in 2009, 2010, yes, there was the internet, but it wasn't as easy as having a handheld phone with Google. Google wasn't around back then, not on a handheld device. So now you could look up a lot of info in YouTube, a lot of videos that could teach you a lot. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to hear anybody who puts out a responsible video on electricity will tell you, you know what I mean? This is rated for this or that. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to load it up 30% less than what it actually is, and just be careful. That's what I was saying. Look at the sockets and make sure there ain't any burn marks around where the plug meets the wall, the plug meets the cord. Make sure that ain't melted or brown, like there's heat. You know what I mean? That's something. It looks like, that something could go bad. If you see a discoloration, brown color, that means something is arcing in there, or that wire is getting too hot and it's starting to melt the plastic or the cord. Look for that. That's a very important thing to look for. Feel the cords. If you feel a cord and it's hot to the touch, like real damn hot, but it still ain't tripping whatever the heck you had, you could actually have a bad circuit breaker. You know what I'm saying? One of those the outlets, the multiple outlets there, that the trip switch. You could actually have a faulty one of those too. But you just look for signs that it's way too much juice. And for most rooms, I'll tell you right now, for most houses, modern houses, a bedroom isn't supposed to have more than 15 amps, which is 1,500 watts. But legal, safety wise, they tell you never to put the full 15 amps. They tell you to run 12 amps max. So if you're running 1,000-watt ballast, all you could have technically in there is one light. You know what I mean? You want to run veg in there, run a cord into a second room that is on a different switch. You know what I'm saying? There's things like that. There's a lot of info out on YouTube. I really don't like giving electrical advice. If I know the person that I'm talking to knows a little, I'll talk back and forth with them. But if it's for someone that's green and don't know much, I don't want to be the one, dude, because I had one of the worst things that can happen from electricity going wrong happening to me. So I don't want that on my conscience.
I agree with everything you said there. As far as electrical safety there, I 100%. My advice on that is, before you plug in anything, plug in lights into all those plugs in the rooms and adjacent rooms, you know, and shut down that breaker. Start flipping some breakers and find out all what runs what, so you're not running something in an adjacent room because, like you said, sometimes one fuse can run multiple bedrooms there, and without knowing there, like you were saying, in your case, your daughter's TV in the next room, so it's quite possible to run something in another room on that same fuse without you knowing that you're doing it. So that's my first advice: is plug in and shut off and see what's all on that breaker, for one. And secondly, and where they should have been first, is if you can just flat out run new plugs and wires to that grow. Don't necessarily count on old wiring, because you don't necessarily know what that wire's been through. Unless you built the house yourself, you could have somebody there before you could have ran something heavy and pre-weakened that wire. You know what I'm saying? Ran it to a hot point. It's already brittle, like you were saying there. And the plug or something's been painted over, and damage is been covered up or whatever without your knowing. So that's the when every time I've opened a new grow there, started a new grow over, that's the first thing I've done is run clean plugs, clean wire right to that grow, and preferably, I start everything. I like to everything I can to run off 220. Is is my little bugaboo. I like it as much shit as I can on 220, and but again, clean lines to them.
I agree. I agree that that's the smartest thing. I mean, now looking back, that's exactly what I would do if I was in a situation like that, an apartment or something. Because a lot of times now, apartments, at least in my state, they have sub panels by law. If it was recently renovated within the last 10 years, they actually have a sub panel in their apartment. So now they don't have to run to the basement to trip a breaker. You know what I mean? Their breakers are right in their apartment. And what you just said is brilliant. If there's room to run a 240, two empty slots, get a friend that's an electrician or get an electrician. You know what I'm saying? Put in that switch. And basically what you're doing is running your own extension cord. You're going to run 12 to say 12 to MC to a 15 amp switch. You know what I mean? I think 15 amp technically you could run 14 14 to, but yeah, 12 2 MC, you know, at 240. You know what I mean? And then at the end of that wire, have your junction box or whatever. And then when you move, it's just a matter of unplugging, wrapping up that cord. You know what I mean? And pulling out those two switches, and you could take that whole setup with you to plug into the next panel, wherever you're gonna go next. You know what I mean?
Save you a lot of money running on 222. It's a lot easier on your equipment.
Well, you know what I just noticed is I got the new I'm still running HPS, but I got, like, it's called a hardcore remote ballast. And now if you're not running 240 volts, you're actually not getting the full amount of juice to the light bulb. I mean, now they come with a sticker where you plug the wire that goes to your bulb. The wire that runs out there's the plug that goes to the wall, and then the power plug, and then there's the plug that goes to the light bulb. Now, on the new hardcore ballasts, you know what I mean? It says right there, there's a sticker now, and this has happened the last year because I bought one 2 years ago and didn't have it. I was having issues, I was losing power with the bulb. It was acting funny, so I wasn't getting, because I grew for years with 1,000 watt, and I just noticed since I moved into this house that I'm not getting what I'm supposed to be getting. And even the bulb, it's not the color I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? I run the same getup for years. And what turned out to be is sun system, if you're running 120, 110 volt, 120 volt, not the 240, the little the socket, that you plug in your wire that goes to the bulb, it says right on it that it only maximum output 8 amps. Now, if you read the sticker on the ballast, it says HPS 120 volt HPS 8.75 amps. So if you're running at 120, technically that ballast is only sending 8 amps worth of juice to that bulb. And 0.75 amps don't sound a lot, but yeah, it is a lot. That's one whole, that's just about a whole volt. That's 3/4 of a volt. Right? No, not a volt. Sorry, not a volt. An amp. That's almost a whole amp. 3/4 of an amp. Sorry. And that makes the difference of the bulb not running right. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm planning on doing. Tomorrow's Saturday, Sunday, before I flip this to flour. Right now, I'm running the metal halide side. So I don't need the full amount of juice. Yeah, you really need that as a flour. I mean, usually from what I've seen, a vegging plant could take half the amps of a flour, of what it is to flour. So if you flour under 1,000 watts, you can veg under 500 watts, and it's going to veg that plant awesome. You know what I mean? Out of 500 watts of juice, especially now with LEDs and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, 240 volt. Like I said, you're like countless people said, it's cheaper, but it also runs cooler. I mean, it's just so much more positives out of it. And if you look at, the biggest thing that runs off electricity in your house, which is if you have an electric dryer, it's 240 because of that amount of juice that it pulls. But yeah, that's a great tip. You know, that's actually a pro tip right there. As soon as you come into a grow, if you're doing that and you see that, the person ain't fucking around.
I actually run my LEDs off them too, off 220.
Oh, I can imagine. What can you get? You could probably get one, two, three, well, at least 3 LEDs off a circuit. If not, you could push 4, on 15 amps, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, the that's the 660 over there at 220 is pulling 2.4
2,
out
4.
of the
Look at that.
wall.
Wow.
And these behind me, these 300 watts fixtures. Oh, you can't see it. Are running 1.27. Oh, I'm sorry. That's wrong. At 220, they're pulling 0.77 amps out of the wall at 220. So, yeah, you could stack quite a few of those things together at 220. And I'm thinking
Wow.
about it. The more I think about it, because I've got there's you can't see them there, but there's a Bloom Plus or cheaper lights, or the budget lights we'll call them. Mars Hydro TSW 2000, and it's pulling, it's putting out 300 watts. Ballast are according to the driver, it's putting out 300 watts, right? To the so and the other one is a Bloom Plus 3000, and both of them are, they're in a 4x8. They're doing really well, but if I had my choice, there'd be one more in there, so according to the fixtures, 900 watts, and each of them pulling, less than 4 amps out of the wall. That's a nice run on a 4x8, and running cool without having to add air conditioning or nothing to it. It's
That's killer.
very appealing. That's very appealing.
That's freaking awesome. And you know what? And that's what's crazy. I think the last 2 to 3 years that LED finally, has come around. That you can run that and get comparable results. I think you got to grow a little different. You want to. I still think it's still. It could go a little more. Is it going to yield nice? Yeah. You know what I mean. You got to change up your style a little bit. You know what I mean? How you bush out the tops and the plants because you're not going to get the penetration. But I mean, compared in the past, I mean, I'd be running it. To be honest, the only thing that stops me from running that is the cost. It's just now that the LEDs is out, the traditional HPS. I mean, the Hortilux bulbs for years that were single-ended Hortilux bulb that would cost you anywhere from 130 to 150. Where you never would get it really below 130. The last year and a half, I've been buying them for $60. I go to my local hydro store and I get them for $68. You know what I'm saying? And that's a real nice bulb. It's not dual-ended. It's the oldest technology there is that's still around, which is single-ended 1,000 watts. But what I'm trying to say is because of the double-ended HPSs and because of the LEDs, the single-ended, the traditional, what people grew with for years, especially when it was illegal, is dirt cheap now. You know what I'm saying? Literally, I mean, that ballast I bought for 110, 120, then the bulb, another 60. So now I'm up to, say, 70. So now I'm up to 190. And to me, the most important thing if you're running a single-ended is your reflector. You know, if you want to pull good weight out of a single-ended, you got to get the proper reflector. To me, it's either adjust the wing. And I've seen people do the triple X, the Dominator hoods that are sealed with the glass. And what I say, I think they're both good, but it's all in where you live. I live right by the ocean. So when I decided what reflector I wanted to use, I looked over at England, what they were using to pump out weight, because they're experts at growing there at ocean level. They live on a freaking island. You know what I'm saying? So I noticed they like the adjuster wing, and sure as shit, I like it, because with the triple X, you got that layer of glass that cuts out right out the back. You're losing 10% of light, if not a little bit more, because that gets dirty within a few weeks. That's going to have dust, something in there. So you could lose up to 20% before you even see flowers on your plant. You know what I mean? So, but if you're living somewhere, say, I don't know, close to the desert or down south, where it doesn't get cold, like, summer where I live is only 2 months out of the year. And then I'm either in fall, winter, spring, all cool temperatures. Summer 2 months out of the year. But I was stationed down south, and I know they basically got, for us, it's like summer all year long. Maybe a light, spring, summer down south. Now, down there where you have constant heat and you're going to have issues, and yeah, maybe you should look at a sealed reflector if you're looking at old technology. You know what I mean? Because now, like I said, you got the grand. I mean, I don't know how much the LEDs run now. I heard someone say, I think anywhere from 800 to 1300. But like I said, the reflector, like I said, the reflector. So you're at 190 with the ballast and the bulb. The reflector, Jesus, I bought that one on sale for like I think $130. It's the large one, but I just seen it, and I should have picked up an extra one. They were trying to clear out. The hydro shop had some backstock, and they were offering the large adjustable wing reflector for $90 a piece. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you get that reflector like right now. I mean, the American one. I mean, he's seen my grow plenty of times. I've showed it, and it's 7'6". It's 6 foot by 7'6". So I got about 48 square feet, and I get solid nug right up because I use reflective walls, I use that foam board with the shiny aluminum side, and I get, depending on the strain, because there's a lot of strains, they don't like being right under the light. They don't like strong light, you know. They prefer to be on the outskirts of the room, and they'll perform beautiful, and they'll give you solid flower top to bottom, you know. So that's where I tend to, you know, where I where I take advantage of growing this way in a long time. But like I said, out of 1,000 watt, and I know people think no way. To me, a 4x4, 1,000 watts doesn't belong in a 4x4. You should at least have a 5x5 minimum. You know, 6x6. If you have like that triple X Dominator, you could get a 6x6 room and get solid nug. You know, but the prints that came with this large adjuster wing, you know, that's what they recommended, you know, and I've been growing for years with it, and people don't believe it until I show them the harvest, you know, and I get nug. Like I said, the outer plants, you know, because like I said, the outer ones, you're talking, you know, 5x5, that's 25 square feet. 6x6 is 36 square feet. And you ask anybody that's grown with HPS, it could do 6x6, especially if you're running multiple lights in there. You've got the cross lighting going on. You know what I mean? It works awesome. But yeah, to me, it's the square footage. You know, knock on wood. You know, I get to a light. You know, and it doesn't matter the strain. I mean, if I know I'm going to run like an OG or something cross into an OG, or you know, I always go multiple heads. You know, I try to go with 12 plants, top early, top often. You know what I mean? And I try to get as many heads as possible. And later, as I fill in the grow or I'm staking off, depending on what I'm doing, you know, if I have too many heads, I'll lob a few off. You know what I'm saying? Or I'll use those for clones. You know what I mean? But yeah, the technology is dirt cheap. Like I said, you could set up a grow room with the traditional 90s tech that I call it. You know what I mean? The Actually, you can't even get the, yeah, you could get the T5s, but I use T8s. That's what I use, the T8 sharp lights in veg. And I'm telling you, I think I'm running with fans. I'm running a little less than 1,600 watts, and I got a lot of air movement because I don't use CO2. You know, and like I said, I get about two a light. You know.
It's pretty damn good. Pretty damn efficient for 1,600 watts. Sounds like.
Yeah, that's also the veg though. I'm also including the veg and the fans. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think I could get it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because there's times I don't like to weigh my stuff. You know what I mean? I only did it once or twice recently because I wanted to know for myself. But the state I live in, you know what I mean? A lot of times they go by finished weight on certain things, and I just want to make sure I'm under, you know, I'm covering all bases. You know, because that's why I didn't grow. I started growing again once medical became legal and I got my license, because I promised my family I wasn't going to put them through that anymore. My kids, you know, I had a big talk with that and my girl, but my girl's, she's got a lot of health issues and she needs the cannabis, you know what I mean? So, I mean, the biggest thing was the kids, you know what I'm saying? Because you try to raise your kids right, you know what I mean? Most people don't raise kids to say that the cops are the bad guys, especially when they're young. Dependent. I mean, it depends, Because let me tell you, I grew up in the suburbs, but when I became disabled, I had to move into the inner city, dude, and I lived there for a good 7, 8 years, So I seen both sides of the coin, you know what I mean? And I seen things in a whole different light those 8 years I lived in the inner city. You know what I'm saying? So but anyway, it was because they seen the cops coming in and the way they treated their father. They know I'm not a bad guy. The cops gave my daughter a little teddy bear after they carted me away to jail. My girl told me this after I was in a police car heading to the station, and they were checking them for smoke inhalation, and one of the cops or detectives pulled out a little teddy bear out of his trunk and gave it to my daughter. Dude, I shit you not. It was about 4 years ago we were moving. And what does she find in the back of one of the closets? That teddy bear. And when she seen it, she was visibly upset. And she went and asked her mom, if it was okay to throw it out, that she didn't like it. And then I didn't know, they gave her a teddy bear. Now this is like 5 years later. So I will come in the house and I see a teddy bear in the garbage, and I'm like, hey, who threw the teddy bear in the garbage? And my girl's like, oh, I gotta talk to you after about that. I'm like, oh, all right. I said, but that's just, like, I did it. I should have dropped it, but I just said, yeah, but that's weird. That looks like a brand new teddy bear. Why would it get thrown in the guy? Like, I should have just left it alone. And then from me questioning it, my daughter was still kind of young. So she thought she did something wrong. You know what I mean? So she basically, that's when I found out that was the teddy bear that the cops gave to her. And she wanted nothing to do with the damn thing. Now she's 17, and everything's copacetic, but 12 years ago, 2012, that was 7 years ago. So she was 10 when I started up again, and I promised all of them that we were completely legal, and I'll tell you another story, and this is the truth, um, not this, I'm in my own home now, but before this, the last 4 years, I moved twice because I rented a home. I rented a home. The home after 5 years was sold. So we moved out. We moved into an apartment. And the apartment was the thing that we didn't know, that the landlord was having issues with the bank. So we had to move again. But anyway, at the house where I lived for those 5 years, things were legal. You know what I mean? As a medical patient, I could grow my plants, and the landlords couldn't say nothing about it. Mass state law, if you grow recreationally, your landlord could say, hey, I don't want that shit in my property, and you can't do nothing about it. But medically, especially when it first started, if there was no dispensaries around, and even when the few opened, I think 3 opened up in the state from like 2012 to 2000, maybe 15, 16. But if you were so many miles away, you were allowed legally to grow your own herb. And your landlord, because it was medical, the landlord couldn't dispute it. It would be considered discrimination because you're growing for your health issue. That's your medicine. That's how the state looked at it. But I shit you not, I got harassed, dude, for a good 6-7 months, and the guy sold the house. The new person who bought the house was just a total dick, Of course, when they sold the house, they come in to evaluate the house. Plus, I don't know which party it was, but they had to have like a contractor make sure there was no problems with the house. So anyway, I had my grow locked up in a room, all legal, totally legal, But during that walkthrough, I had to unlock my room and let these people look at my grow. To look in the room. And of course, when you look in the room, what do you see? My grow, you know what I mean? So after that, the landlord just, man, he just turned out, he was barbecuing in the yard every day. He was just trying to aggravate me to move. You know what I mean? Like when I rented that house, of course the yard comes with it. Who the hell rents a house and doesn't expect the yard to come with a house? You know what I mean? And I even said it. Told him, I said, if I wanted to rent, a home with no yard, I would have just paid $500 less and get an apartment. You know what I mean? Or share a yard. At least that I could share a yard. Long story short, you know what I'm saying? He took me, because what it is when he started harassing me bad, I stopped. You know what I mean? I stopped paying him rent. I hit him in the wallet. And what I did is I opened a bank account, and that's the biggest thing. You got to do the right thing if you're going to stop paying. If you're going to use the law to your advantage, you got to use the law all the way, and you got to follow the rules for both sides. So when I stopped paying them rent, I did put it in forgot what you called them accounts, though, but it's just so it could gather interest, because technically it was his money. I was just holding it back for a reason. And it went for like 3 months, and we went in front of a judge, and he got a lawyer. Now it's just me by myself against his fancy lawyer. And all I had was a book with about 8 pages, 10 pages of notes and pictures. You know what I mean? I took pictures of them having the barbecues in the yard, of them starting up a power saw for freaking 21 days in a row, and it took them 6 days to cut one piece of wood, dude. 6 days at literally 7:01 in the morning. Noise ordinance here is you can't make noise till 7 a.m. 7:01 in the morning, right under my bedroom window, turning on a table saw, dude, and ripping on a piece of wood just for a few minutes to make that noise. I shit you not, dude. He did shit like that, but he didn't know because I just kept my mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't know I was taking pictures and writing notes. And sure as shit, when we went to housing court, you know, went and I spoke to his lawyer first. Before you go see the judge, it's kind of like mediation. It's like a representative of the court, you two are supposed to go in a room, or you or your two lawyers, whoever's going to go in front of the judge, goes into this little room beforehand with someone from the court and see if you could work things out before you go up to see the judge. And sure as shit, I seen his lawyer and the mediator, and I just started pulling out the evidence. And I said, look, I was harassed. Here's my medical license. This is for my grow. The homeowner beforehand, I got a deposit. Uh, when you get someone, they got that stamp there. But anyway, I got a piece of paper from him, which we both had to sign in front of this person, saying, that he knew that I was growing my own medicine before the growing, because for this guy not to say I just started growing to aggravate him or whatever, because these people were off their tree. But anyway, his lawyer, when he seen the pictures, especially with the piece of wood that he was ripping on for so many days, you know what I'm saying, in the notes and all that, he just said, "Look, what do you want?" And then told him what I wanted. You know what I mean, for the headache. And see, I thought you could only get $5,000. For some reason, I thought if you weren't going, like, when you go to that wasn't small claims court, actually. That was housing. But I thought it was the same rules, and I wish I should have looked that up, because I think I could have got a lot more. But I said $6,000. That's what I had saved up, the 3 months of rent. And he still had to owe me. It was going to take me. I had 3 months of his rent locked up in an account, and which I showed, because that was the first thing the lawyer asked for. Oh, you haven't paid my client 3 months rent. I said, because I got a grievance, and I showed him the paperwork for the bank where the money was at. I said, his money's been sitting every day, every time of the month that he was supposed to get paid, it got deposited and it's sitting there. And I got to keep that 3 months worth of rent plus another 2 months, because he said, how long would it take for you to get out of there? And I already had a place lined up, and I only needed about 3 weeks, but I said another 60 days. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have to rush out of there. And his lawyer agreed to it, and the mediator agreed to it, and I ended up winning $6,000, dude, because this dude trampled on my medical rights, dude, to grow my own grass.
It's awesome, man. You are a fucking legal badass, by the way. I think because what you did there was genius, fucking genius. Because I actually had that same problem with a landlord, not that bad, but he was in the beginning there when we first moved into this house, man. Him and his wife were coming over and working in the yard and just making their presence. And I actually went out there and did the same fucking thing you did. I'm like, hey man, I didn't fucking rent this house, and I'm not paying this kind of money for you to be your friend. I don't mean to be rude, but we're buying this house to live here, and you being part of this yard every day wasn't part of the deal. And I ended up looking it up, just much like you did. And what I found out here in Michigan, anyways, that even a renter has rights, and if a landlord can't do that, basically what I found out is you're entitled to your privacy, and they don't They don't have the right to come over at any random time and disrupt your life like that. They actually have to give you 24 hours notice before they come onto the property unless they think something's wrong. So that's for an entry, by the way. You know what I mean? They can't just come over and be like, "Oh, I want to, check the measurement on that window." Well, they better give you 24 hours heads up, before that. If they want to come in and do that, they can't just show up one day and be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I want in right now," because that shit don't fly. You could. It's sad, but you could actually take that stance with them, and that guy ended up being such a butthead. I ended up going that route a few times with him. But unless it's emergency, you have right to actually say no. Come on back. Give me a heads up. And yeah, it's sad that that guy did that to you. But I'm glad. It's nice to hear you got the better end of it. We're wise to take notes and pictures and shit like that. Luckily, in my case, it didn't come down to that. After I, kind of asserted my rights a little bit, he definitely backed off, and it was smooth sailing after that. But I think he had every intentions on coming over and being a part of my everyday life until I said something.
Yeah, and you know what? Most states are like that, and you're right, because I respect the fact that that's his house, but once he rents that house, that becomes my home. That's where I lay my head. You hear so many times that, if you're gonna do that, do it at your house. If you're gonna do that, do it in the privacy of your home. And now, when that privacy is taken away, and you as an adult don't even have the simple privacies to feel relaxed and not stressed out because some dude's outside in your yard, I mean, it's not normal. You know what I mean? Yeah, once in a while, if he's there just to pick something out or check something else out, fine. But when you know that they're just trying to skirt a law, like they tried starting this garden, you know what I mean? They bought the home. So their excuse to be there every day for the summer to pressure me out of there quicker, was to start a little garden. That was their excuse. And you know what? I looked into it, and that was kind of a solid excuse to be there. Where he started messing up was being there every single day. They started throwing barbecues. They were there for the garden. He started building in the yard before I even moved. And then when I caught evidence, and like I said, I was dude, people would think I would be a pushover. That's how meek I was about it. Because I could take it two ways: either get mad and violent and get my ass in trouble, or just document and hope for the best. And I think any normal person like you, as soon as I asserted my rights, they would have backed off. The issue with that dude is he was retired Coast Guard and retired city firefighter. So he thought he had the good old boy club on his side. When I called the cops, they were there smoking and joking. And I'd be the one calling the cops, and the cops are like, this is a civil issue. And then he also came to terms with me because, he was smoking and joking with his buddies, but also he had to come to civil terms when I pointed out to the cops that, yeah, it is his house, but it is my home. He can't be here every single day. You know what I'm saying? He can't be cutting this piece of wood. I'm like, this is more than that. He's harassing. And it wasn't just him. He had his son-in-law, the daughter. So if he wasn't there, now here comes the son-in-law and the daughter. You know what I'm saying? And they were taking shifts. So there was always someone there. And his his father-in-law his father-in-law was actually worked for the freaking housing court. He was the sheriff or whatever, the one that goes and serves paperwork to people. So he really thought like this good old boy club, that he had the rights. And you know what? Maybe 10, 15 years ago, he would have got away with that shit. But you know what? Once you, as a former firefighter, and you have friends that are cops and firefighters and have people that work for the courts, in my opinion, once you put them in a position to look like assholes and to make them look unreasonable, and you expect them to cover your ass, then you're fucking nuts, dude. 2020. This happened like 2015. You're out of your fucking gourd, dude, you know? And you're not respecting them because you're making them look like assholes. Because, like I said, I really believed he thought I was a stupid stoner that was just like meek. You know what I mean? That I was just a pushover and they were going to do whatever they could do, you know? And when they got the lawyer, and when he had that big badass lawyer, his daughter freaked the hell out when the lawyer went outside when I said what I wanted, and the lawyer went back, and instead of telling him that he won, that hey, you should really settle with this guy because if the judge sees what he has, you're in trouble, you know. And that's basically in a few words. That's what he told him because this courthouse wasn't big at all, you know. And I heard the daughter go, "What?" You know, I heard her bug the freak out, you know, and you could tell they used that good old boy club. They used it on plenty of fucking people, you know. And just with me, that the medical laws were lined up, you know what I'm saying? But I really think they thought I was just a dumb stoner and a pushover, you know? And they thought I was going to be irresponsible and spend their rent money and not throw it in I forget the name of escrow. I think it's called escrow. No, that's when you buy
It
a
is
home.
an escrow.
It
No, an
is, right?
escrow is when you put that money aside. Yeah, for like the landlord. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's basically, you know, I was acknowledging it was his money, but I just didn't want to give it to him. And by law, since I didn't give it to him, he was entitled to a little bit of interest. So legally, like I said, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have much money. You know, these people thought they were better than me because they had more money than me. You know what you see them people, you know, they think they're connected. They think they got more money and they're going to shit on the poor person. You know what I mean? And I totally, you know, I covered all my bases. I'm like, that money's going in escrow. You know, I had friends saying, fuck that, dude. Don't give him a penny. Use that money to move. And I'm like, no, man. I'm like, I got the law on my side. And dude, you know how I got, that was the very first time I got, that I started using the Google on the phone and started looking up, you know, just asking Google all kinds of legal questions and making sure it was coming out of a state run website, that it wasn't like from, you know, I wasn't reading California law or whatever, that it was a law forum for Massachusetts. You know what I mean? And it's, they post it, you know, before there'd be books and books of paper. Now the state posts the laws on the line, you know what I mean? And they say, you know, do I have a grievance? You know, can I hold back rent? You know, what do I, yes, you can hold back rent. You know, I'm reading that. You can hold back rent, but you must put money into an interest bearing account, you know, until your case is heard. And then I knew, like, you know, I didn't think, like I said, you know, the medical law was still new. You know what I'm saying? But I knew I had my bases covered on that too. You know, they didn't mention the medical grow in court. They didn't do that. And his lawyer didn't even mention it. But I really had a feeling that when they seen that grow, you know, and they just thought I was just another dumb stoner, you know. And dude, that was such a big win. I mean, because dude, I bit my tongue for 3 months. I had my little daughter asking me, "Daddy, what are we doing wrong? Why are they acting like that?" You know, and it's tough, man. When your kid looks up at you like that, you know what I mean, and they're asking you questions like that, and as a man, dude, you know, you want to jump in that yard and tear a piece of that fucking ass right off. Let me tell you. But you know, I bit my lip, dude, and I'm glad. And I hit him. And the funny part was is, and that was such a big learning lesson for me. It's like I said, I got mouthy with him. I never threatened him, but I got mouthy with him. And I told him, you know, in a few words that I'd fuck him up and stuff like that. But once I won that money for the next 2 months, bro, that I was in there, because remember, I said I wanted the 3 months back rent and I needed another 60 days to leave there. Those next 2 months, dude, you could hear a pin drop in that property. They had to call me to come over. You know what I'm saying? They'd have to call me because that was the law, 24-hour notice. You know what I mean? And they'd have to call, oh, can I come over and water the garden today? Nope. I'm busy today. I'm not going to be here. My kids are at home alone. I don't trust you in the yard with just my kids and my sick fiance there. And boom, they couldn't come. You know, that the next 60 days was just so quiet. And I learned before you ever hit anybody like that, dude, hit him in the wallet. That's where it really hurts with people like that.
I agree. I think you handled it perfectly, to be honest with you. Acceptable. Exceptional, to be honest. I mean, even like you said, your buddy's telling you, "Oh, don't pay, don't pay." You ended up winning, and and walked away with a clear conscience and got the money. So I think you handled it beautifully. I really do. I mean,
You know what
I
I
want to
liked
be
about
quick
that.
to point out too. It takes a bigger man to fucking look the other way and not lose your fucking cool, because that shit would have got you nowhere. If you'd have ran out in that yard, it would have went all the other way. All the other way.
Oh yeah, it would. Yeah, it would, and because he was connected too. That's what they wanted, and I knew that. You know what I mean? He worked out of the Coast Guard cutter in my city. He did a career. I forgot. I think it's 20 years. So if he had joined at 18, say he retired at 38. You know what I mean? Then he went on to work in the city as a firefighter. You know what I'm saying? And I used to call it the good old boy club. And like I said, I literally called the cops from a harassment, and the cops are telling me to settle down, to have a seat away from them, and they're just smoking and joking. And I remember I said, John, I hope you laugh right now. I hope you enjoy that laugh, but I also hope you got deep pockets. And what also felt good though, it vindicated me. Like once I went to court, there was tension, because of the grow and all that. And I had told my girl, it wasn't so much with my girl, it was with my kids, because my kids, I think, have PTSD when the fire happened. And when they knew I was going to court and they knew the landlord knew I had a garden in the thing and all that, you know what I'm saying? They really, I think they thought I was going to be in trouble. But after that court date, when they seen that everything was okay and better than ever, you know, they never like me growing never became an issue again. Like I never seen like the kids upset about it. I never seen it like an issue anymore. Like you know what I mean? Them being upset at this or that, or because kids, especially good kids, you know what I mean? It's if they know you need something or something's important enough to you and you don't ask much from them. Hell, you don't ask nothing from them and you never did, but they see that you really like doing this one thing, you know, they love you. They're not going to tell you, please don't do that, especially if they see that you're happier than ever, you're relaxed, things are going smooth. And I really believe that after I went to court and I walked away as, you know, after that day, growing felt totally different. And I don't know if it was because me too. I was nervous, but I knew, when once you get pinched like that, you could tell yourself, all the time, I'm legal, I'm legal, I'm legal. But there's something way in the back of your head, and I think it's part of the brainwashing of years and years and years of it being illegal, you know what I'm saying, and being a smoker. But that I actually went into a courthouse, it didn't even get mentioned. You know what I'm saying? The rent got mentioned. You know what I'm saying? The time it took to leave there got mentioned. You know, somebody had cut their garden and pulled their tomato plant. Someone ripped apart the garden. I don't know who did it. You know what I mean? They must have
Oh,
pissed off somebody else. But that,
oh, I know why they didn't fucking mention that shit. That was your ace in the hole. That was your ball bat right there. I mean, once you had that page notarized that they knew you were growing, and then shit went sour after that. That is basically malicious intent. I mean, you had him by the balls. You really did.
I don't know because I
It,
didn't hire a lawyer, but
and you had him ball by the balls all by the way you handled it. That's why I'm so impressed by the way you handled it. I mean, if you would have handled it any other way, I don't. You would have probably had to pay up, and things would have been a lot different. But because you handled it exactly the way you did, you had them. You had them by the balls for sure. There was no way they were getting out of that clean.
you know, And I thought of it because, you know, like I said, I got busted a few times throughout the years, you know, especially that grow room fire. And when I went to court, when that judge threw out that evidence, dude, I mean, some people may say, like, you know, and knock on wood, man, God, don't don't prove me wrong. But I really believe that if you're innocent, you know what I mean, unless something goes horribly wrong, that, you know, the court system, yeah, if you have money, you got it made. Of course, you're going to walk away where someone's probably going to do time. I'll acknowledge that. But I also feel that if you're in the right, like legally, by their rules, you know, you're abiding by their rules, and you could prove that, you know, you're following their laws, not what's right or wrong, because sometimes what's right or wrong has nothing to do with the law, you know. But as long as you're following the law and you can prove that in court, I think you're good. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt that going in because that when that judge, like I said, I'm like, 6 months unsupervised probation is what I got. Now, yeah, I'm pretty. It was either 6 or 12 months, but dude, I didn't have to go for like piss tests or nothing. You know what I mean? I did have to go check in with the court, but that was pre-trial. That wasn't after. That was pre-trial. You know what I mean? So they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to run or if I was going to show up. I don't know why, but I had to show up at least once a month to the courthouse while that stuff was going on. But also, when the judge threw that out, you know, because dude, there was no way around mandatory minimum, you know, and the only reason why was because the cop entered my house, and the judge, even though he knew what they found, he said, well, the law says you weren't supposed to be in the house in the first place. So anything you find, you cannot use against him. And I seen how powerful the law really is. Not what's wrong or right, the law, like the letter of the law. And that was power for me to go in one day thinking I'm going to jail for 2 years, you know, 24 months without no parole, nothing, because it's a mandatory minimum. You know what I'm saying? To 6 months unsupervised probation, you know, because that cop didn't follow the law and it was recorded as so. You know what I'm saying? Boom. I kind of felt pretty. It was hard for me to bite my lip, but I knew that by not being the bad guy, you know what I mean? By just keep on biting my lip and writing. And I thought, you know, really didn't have a choice. I mean, my fiance was sick. I had two underage kids. You know, my son wasn't 18 yet, you know. My son's 25 now, my daughter's 17. But at the time, he was 17. He was still in high school. But still, he was 17, and my daughter was around 11, 12, you know. But I knew that, look, I get arrested, you know, that's money I don't have, you know, and who's going to bring the kids to school? Who's going to get Dawn her medicine, you know? Because at that time, my fiance was bedbound, you know, she's got Graves' disease. She had her thyroid cut out completely. She don't have none of it. Probably back in 05, 06, right around the time I grew, you know what I mean? Right around there, you know? But yeah, and I'm so glad I did, you know. And I went to that court, and even when I seen his big shot lawyer, I didn't sweat it because I knew, you know, I caught him, especially with the videos, you know, and it was not the pictures showing, you know, why didn't you cut this piece of wood? Not in one day, not 2 days, literally like 5 days to cut one piece of wood at this certain time. And I recorded it and I took pictures. Like I recorded it on the phone, and I had to learn all that shit. But you know, just this one device I'm talking to you now, a simple telephone, did all that for me, and I just followed it. And I knew I was going to have my day in court. I just didn't know how good it was going to be. I honestly thought that I was going to have to leave and still pay him his money and all that. I didn't think the lawyer, he didn't even haggle. Like he said, "What do you want?" When I told him what I wanted, he didn't even come back with a counter offer. And as soon as he said yes, in the back of my mind, I thought I screwed up. I should have asked for more. You know?
At least it worked out as well as it did. You didn't owe nothing, and he got mud on his face, and like you said, you got to you know deem yourself the better man without no word of a doubt there, and it's pretty awesome. Yeah, and I think that in looking back, I think that it was a better lesson for your daughter there as well. You know, on a better way to handle things instead of letting your temper get the best of you.
I do. I think a lot. I think a lot of positive things came out of it, for sure. You know what I mean? For sure. And like I said, just the way to grow in peace was such, to see my kids just like not, like I said, after that, like I left that house, I broke down that grow, we moved into that apartment. I mean, you could go to the beginning of my IG, because that second my first grow in that house, because I was living there in 2012. I didn't take any pictures of that one because I was still paranoid as shit. But when I moved to the apartment right before this home, I documented a little bit of the grow, and when I took it down. So you could even see it on my Instagram. That was the first thing. I took that bedroom. I knew I had to bring my plants from point A to point B. And, I set up the kids' rooms and stuff like that, and then once I was done, I went right to that room. I set up a light. I didn't even build the square. I just set up a light to keep the plants alive, chucked it in that spare bedroom, and then I built it after that. And I thought I was going to live there for a few years. This home that I'm living in now, it's kind of like a homestead. Basically, my brother and his wife bought another home, and this was the house he owned when he was single, and he wanted to keep it in his family. You know what I mean? And him and his wife wanted to move out of the city into the town next over. So I thought, dude, with all the shit I went through in my life, that I would never own a home because my credit was just too screwed up. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't have the cake to put down that 10%, or that 15% on a home. And that was another blessing, man. I found out that this lady, the apartment, not even 1 year in there, I come home one day and I find a notice on the door saying that the bank is taking over the house. You know what I mean? And that they suggesting that I gotta find, you know what I mean? Like foreclosed. The house got foreclosed on the landlord. I wasn't even there a year, dude. You know what I'm saying? If I knew that house that was gonna get foreclosed on, I wouldn't have moved there. Moving sucks. You know what I mean? But yeah. And then I was there, and dude, I shit you not, I'm like, what am I gonna do now? I just moved a year ago. It took just about all the money we had then. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? What I'm gonna do? Thinking night after night, and then like 3 weeks into it, my brother's like, "Hey, Roy," and he told me, he's like, "Me and Nadia, we're gonna buy another home. We've been," and I'm like, I thought it was because of me. I'm like, and it was just like one of those things in life where I said, like, when things go good, they go good. And that was one of the times that things went good, and it just lined up right. And he was like, "No, we've been looking for a home for a long time. She finally found one she liked. We put in an offer. I can't say that they're going to accept it, but if they do, I don't want that. I don't want, because my father fixed this house. My brother bought this home in 1999, and it was a serious fixer-upper. My old man's a contractor, and there ain't one part of this house he didn't touch in one way or another. And he's like, I don't want to get rid of my home. And he's like, do you want to rent it or do you want to buy it? And he came with two amounts that I could pay a month. He said, if you want to rent it, this much. You want to buy it for me, this much. And I was like, I said, well, I'll go and talk to Doug. But I already knew right off the back. I mean, who's going to offer you no interest to buy a home? You know what I mean? And I love my brother for that, though. And it's big, but I consider myself real lucky because, like I said, that was something I would never have seen. So I am blessed. I'm blessed in a lot of ways. That's why when like things do go bad, I just keep my head down and keep going forward because I know, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to appreciate the little bit of light you get.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, brother. Appreciate you sharing, man. Fucking, man, it's but it's seemed like it worked out in an amazing way. You know, like I said, there was definitely a bright side to all that. Amazing journey. Holy shit.
Dude. Yeah, bro. Thank you, man. But yeah, it is crazy. And I would never have seen it coming. It's literally just trying to do the right thing one day at a time. You know what I mean? And getting up and trying every day and not laying down. I mean, that's why I loved watching Sub, you know. The guy would take a beat and then he'd just get on up and keep on pushing forward. And any person like that, I like watching. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to call him the underdog, but someone that's down that doesn't quit and doesn't make an excuse and doesn't turn into a whiner and oh why me and give up. No, just hey, I got dealt a shitty hand, but you know what? I'm gonna make it up and then some. And I always thought of that mentality. And to me, I think if you want to be a certain something, then surround yourself with those certain people or that certain outlook. Like I keep a tight rein on my Instagram feed. I don't allow negativity. I say only growers or you'll be banned. But I do allow some people that don't grow on it. I just notice that usually people who actually grow, they just too busy to take up too much time to be caught up in like negative stuff, you know? And the people that are real negative in the community, if you really look, instead of what they're saying, what's coming out of their mouth, if you look at the real negative people in the community, their actions, they're not growing. You know what I mean? For some reason they're taking a break, or they always were, bullshit artists. I don't know. Maybe they grew 2 years and now they talk 8 years later. They still talk about the first 2 years they grew. You know what I'm saying? And they think, it's just bent. You know what I mean? I just notice I try to surround myself with positive people, and that's it. And to me, social media, you got to keep a tight rein on that because you have negativity pop in that feed. When you're having your coffee in the morning or at night, you're thumbing through this or that. That negativity pops up on your screen. It takes your mind off of the positive road that you want to be on. And to me, it's just not worth it. You know what I mean? And as soon as I see that, block. You know what I mean? And I've just noticed 8 out of 10 times the negative people I come across don't grow grass. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I've, I've taken a note to that myself a long time ago about, I've noticed that how friggin' easily negativity can spread. And
Oh,
that's something I told myself as somebody that comes on does this every day. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. I'll not show up if I can't, not at least smile. You know what I mean? If I've got something shitty, if I'm in that bad of a mood, I can't, in in good faith, turn on this damn camera and try to spread that shit. Even saying that right now, if I ever do, and turn that shit off, turn me off. I understand. I wouldn't fucking blame you. That's for sure. And you're absolutely, right like that. That's great advice because what you bring the morning, that first half hour, what you let into your day, out is so critical, so critical. That sets the whole pace for your whole day. And I don't even watch the news. I hate. Yeah, sadly enough, take what you want from that. I don't watch the news. I try not to take any of it in. It's just they don't they lost the goodwill news a long time ago. You don't hear about the people that are doing good deeds, good shit around your community. It's always the bad shit. Oh, this got pulled over. People, these are the people got pulled over. This place to get broken into. These are the people got hurt. These are the people that are cheating on stuff. These are your bad politicians, and yeah, it probably needs to be known, but it's just a terrible way to. Seems like that's all they want to throw in your face anymore. So I've kind of just blocked all that shit out. you know, I don't know.
You're right. Dude, guess what? I haven't had cable in 4 years. I don't watch the news anymore because it was the same negative thing. And to me, there's something behind that because there's a lot of negative stuff in the world, but to report on the same thing day in, day out for 2 weeks in a row, it just makes me think they're beating that into people's heads for one reason or another. But to me, I know, because like I said, I'm 47, so I remember the days of responsible journalism, where journalists did have ethics, Walter Cronkite, Dan Rathers, but for me, about 5, 6 years ago, things started going to crap, and now you don't see that. Now you could purposely, like, I didn't have cable for 4 years, so I seriously didn't watch the news. I would read the newspaper maybe once a week, or if something big was going on, I'd get it from people talking in chat, or doing hangouts like this, or talking to friends out and about. If something big, and that's how I figured that if there's something huge going on, I could find out that way, because I used to watch the news religiously every single day. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, I started hearing spin. You know, the spin the story. You know what I mean? The spin factor, or basically lying. They take, there's an hour-long speech, and then they take clips out of it and line up those clips for you to feel a certain way, like it's being said this way. But when you watch that hour-long speech, it's like, holy shit, that was totally taken out of context, what they did. And when I seen that made me even, I was like, I did the right thing by shutting it down. But holy shit, it worries me sometimes as an American, because for the people that like were the younger me that like watching the news every day, they're all confused. These people they have no morals whatsoever, no ethics. You know what I mean? And to me, I think that's why it's a shit show. But I also think that the news, that's why they report the same thing for 2 weeks in a row. I really think that there's just as many good people as there is this negative aspect. It's just that little bit of negative aspect is getting the spotlight shined on them constantly. Because when I look around, and granted, I know I choose to surround myself with positive people and good people, but I see the negative people that come and go, or that I run it and delete off my feed or whatever. But still, I don't see, the negativity in the numbers that they make it look like in the news. You know what I mean? I really believe that most Americans are reasonable, and they're being taught how to think unreasonably. You know what I mean? And it's done for one reason or another. Why? I don't know. I believe in conspiracies, not all of them. I really think that there's some put out there to discredit the 3 out of 10. I believe there's 6 fake ones put out there to discredit the 3 or 4 that are real. You know what I'm saying? I really do believe that, but it's just a big shit show. And to be honest, it's like you said, when you start your day, that negativity, and even to answer, say, back on a post, or leave a remark back, to even a positive remark, to put your positive energy out there to a negative person, you're already draining yourself, and you didn't even really you didn't even start your day yet, and you're basically, you know, um, you're trying to make people see the light, there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to remember, you can't let your light poke out from trying to show everybody else the light, and that's very important. I think I did that when I was younger too. You give too much of yourself, or you weigh yourself thin, trying to help others or make others see things, and in the end, it's not worth it, man. And maybe it's because when I was younger, I was a little selfish, because I used to like to drink and party hard and stuff like that. And drinking and some other substances tend to lead to selfish behavior, and I don't like being selfish, but I think taking care of yourself and trying to, I don't want to say control, but to, in a way, it is controlling your life, like setting your life up to where, hey, if you're going to help someone, you're going to help someone who wants to help themselves, so they are not like a leech, that takes that positive energy and just sucks your life force out of you and leaves you with nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then when you have nothing, and you're resting, that's when they're, kicking in your back door and robbing you blind or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just an example, but I mean, it's like I said, I think I said it earlier. I think we've all crossed paths because a lot of us have a lot of similar things. You know what I mean? And even if we at different ages, someone following or that hangs out could be in their 20s, but you know what? Us looking back could say, you know what? I remember being just like that when I was in my 20s. And then I'm being like that when I was in my 30s. You know what I mean? And I just think, like, I don't want to say serendipity, but I think there's something bigger that brings people around. And like I said, the negative stuff, I try to put it in context and think, that ain't all around us right now. That's just they're trying to make us think that for one reason or another. And like I said, and that's what I choose to believe. You could choose to be negative. Is the glass half empty or half full? You know, I I, I used to say half left. Because I'm I'm the son of a Portuguese immigrant, so I had to learn English in school. So in elementary school, so sometimes I don't speak like proper English, because I spoke Portuguese so much at home that even now as an adult, and even though I may just only speak it when I'm visiting my parents, so I have a neighbor, an elderly neighbor, that's all they speak, but yeah, it's you either half gone or half left. You know what I mean? I choose, hey, half left, it's half full.
I try to be very optimistic myself. There's nothing gained to be in negativity, nothing gained at all. And I, it goes for when we go. I'm not even searching for, like, we talk about that paper and stuff like that, news and whatnot. I'm not even searching out any kind of bad information. I'm not even leaving room for it anymore. I'm only seeking out stuff that I'm passionate about anymore. I'm trying to leave some gaps for negativity, uh, very small, very small, if any. Trying to patch them up as I go, but you know what I mean. You can only live and learn and you know foresee so much shit. But yeah, life's too
Exactly,
short.
exactly. I mean, I watch your show a lot. Like I said, even the times I'm not in chat, I'll stop in and, like, even if I'm a half hour to water the plants or check on the plants or whatever, I'll have you on in the background. I may be tired that day, or my thoughts may be on something else. So you know, it's like I said, it goes back to that attention thing where when I was younger, thinking that I had a attention deficit. You know what I mean? But for the most part, like I said, I love it, man. I was here when you first started it. I think you got an awesome thing going right now. It's awesome for the community. It's much needed, you know. And let me tell you, you're my friend, guy. You know what I mean? I look at it that way. Even though we've never met, this is the first time we ever talked. But I mean, I agree with 95% of what you say and you guys talk about, and just the way you carry yourselves. You know what I mean? And I could see, like I said, where we have a lot more in common than we have not in common. And the company is appreciated because that's what I do when I put on one of these streams. It's company to have someone to hang out with, because at the time, you know what I mean, there's nobody physically around. or you know what I mean, the kids are doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? So at night I got my few hours to me, and this is what I like to do, you know. And to have someone that likes the same hobby, that loves the plant just as much, you know, it's just, you would think, you know, as much as we talk about it day in and day out, that we'd be bored of it or whatever, but no, you know. And to me, I just think it's just meant to be, you know.
You know, it was an honor to have you on. I've been kind of chasing you for a minute, man, because you know I recognize you from the Weed Nerd chats from for a long time. That's how I remember it and recognize the name. It wasn't from necessarily from Instagram. It was from the Weed Nerd chats, and it was cool to finally get a chance to fucking talk to you, firsthand. And fucking definitely not a disappointment, that's for sure. You know, and I wish you'd be more in chat because I don't know if you've ever noticed, man. You're one of those names that every time I've seen it go by, I like kind of perk up a little bit. Your boy Roy boy, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Because it is, we were talking a little bit about that earlier, but conversation kind of is going so well, went a little fast, if you will, uh, that I kind of skipped over it. But I believe the same thing. There's something weird about this plant that just forms this camaraderie with people. It's really compared to any other brotherhood or I want to almost compare it to the closest thing I can really compare it to is like a biker club. You know what I mean? The camaraderie that a biker club would have. It's a strong, unsaid bond. Or I guess it applies for any other type of uh, society where you guys just put everything or care everything about what you're doing, passionate about what you're doing. I guess is a better word. But in this community, I've found that the people that you've come to know in these chats, man, it's like you've known them for years, and become good friends. It's weird how you can feel like that with people that you've never really met, and that's the cool thing that I've tried to do with this show is put a face to these names because like I've said on a lot of times, man, anymore after like this, even though these guys didn't see you, I see you. You know what I mean? Now I'll see you in chat. You know what I mean? It won't be the emoji anymore. And the words, I hear. I'm goofy like that. I don't know what makes me think like that, but uh, when I see like I'm looking at American one right now. When I don't see the words. I hear the voice. You know what I mean? And it's weird. I'm just weird like that. It's just now I feel more personal with all these people that have been a pleasure to do this with, and it's it just takes it to the whole new level, And it's I don't know what it's obviously like you said this plant, but man, it does fashion some very very strong bonds, very strong bonds with people. It's I don't know how many times that pre this, you know what I mean? Uh, that I've had been just at a cup and hanging out, smoking with somebody, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, what's up? I'm such and such," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure there's quite a few people that they know this to be true." They put their hand out. I've more times than not will slap that hand right to the fucking side and hug your ass. What's going on, man? You know what I mean? Holy shit, that's fucking awesome, man. Finally, you know what I mean? It is, you know, I can't think of nothing else that I've seen this with. Nothing else, really. You know?
I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you 110%. I mean, I feel the same way. And to me, I think it's maybe because of the technology for the first time in our lives, we're able to do this. You could actually see a person and hear their voice and talk to them day in, day out. And even though it's not physical, like you're not seeing them face to face, you kind of are, because you're looking right at a screen and you're talking to them. And like I said, the last few years, the friendships and the bonds I've made in the community, it may not be many, but it's the best. I wouldn't take back not one of the friends I've made. The Good Earth family, Twisted Lion, this past year. And this is the first time we talked, but just hearing you talk night after night, I could tell we have more in common than we don't. And a lot of our views are the same, and I think you're doing a big service to the community too by introducing everybody who has something to say. You know what I mean? Not everybody has to be famous. You know what I mean? Not everybody has to be a mover or shaker in the community. It's basically just the average grower. You know what I'm saying? But they love the plant. They're good people. You know what I'm saying? And between life and gardening, they don't have, and especially now, I mean, who could foresee this year with the pandemic, where you have to stay in. I mean, shows like yours are lifelines. I mean, you hear stories of depression going up and that going out. And let me tell you, live chats to me are what bars and clubs used to be when I was younger. When at the end of the work week, or the end of the day, I'd stop off at the local pub and go have a cold one and just talk shop, or just talk, little nothings with a few friends, just to blow off a little steam. I liken, these live chats and these shows to that now, to where I am in life now. And I appreciate the hell out of it. I appreciate the energy you put in, because you're not making a penny off this. You know what I'm saying? But you put your heart and soul into it. And I'm telling you, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm honored that you invited me on. And I'm honored that the people showed up tonight to find out, hey, what's Roy Boy about? What does he think about? And I'm honored that my friends that I've met the last few years are here, and they took the time out of a Friday night to come see what I've been up to. Because to be honest, the last few months haven't been pretty, and I just didn't want to drag. And that's what took me so long. I mean, I talked to you back, I think it was in May, the end of May, and I was saying things ain't going good for me. And I just didn't want to come. I'd rather have a night like tonight, where positive things, good information I could share with friends, than just stuck on a rut. You know what I mean? And just put in a lot of sad things out there, because we all have sad things, and that's all right. And believe me, if I knew that, hey, I need a friend right now to get this sadness off me, I wouldn't hesitate. But to be honest, everybody has their own ways about them. And personally, like I said, I'd like to share more positives than the sadness, because I know maybe it's because of it comes with age. I'm 47 years old now. I just know it's part of life, and that there was a time when I was younger that I thought that this was only happening to me. Why was life being shitty like this to me? And then you find out as you get older, you know, people, some don't want to say things, others just want to act like something is that isn't. You know what I'm saying? But either way, as you get older, you realize, you're just like the next man. You know what I mean? Uh, you're just like, the next woman. You know what I mean? If you, yeah, especially when they like the hobbies and the plants and stuff like that. In our hobby, it seems to be more men than women at the moment. I think this is just the beginning of this. You know what I mean? I see people getting, I don't want to say burned out, but they think, the train has come and passed. Like, the round table ain't on no more, and shows that we're on ain't no more. But to me, you got shows like yours. You know what I'm saying? And you got stuff like, to me, the beginning of the plant going legal, and this hobby uh, of everybody growing is just starting. You know what I mean? I really think this is going to blow up big in a way, because I know I'm just a normal person. If I feel this way about gardening this plant, then you know what? There's a good majority of people out there, maybe 1 in 20, you know what I'm saying? But still, that's a good percentage, that likes it. I'm not big on sports, you know what I mean? I'm not, big on race cars, none of that. I like, God before gardening, it was a little less it was more history, but I was watching hours and hours of television and just sitting down and doing nothing. And now with the technology, I could either put on the Bluetooth on the radio, and I could either be gardening outside or inside, but it's a passion I've had my whole life. It's something my whole life I told others that, when I knew they were wrong, and they believed the government. They thought cannabis was like heroin. They thought cannabis was like cocaine. They think if you smoke pot, you're a loser, you won't be nothing. All those stereotypes that I'm sure that everybody of us that like this plant have seen themselves. You know what I mean? And now that it's legal, it's a big deal because it's saying, see, I usually don't like saying, see, I told you, but it's like, see, it is, you know what I mean? And it's just a big deal, because I think for a lot of us, we've sacrificed so much that I don't think some of us can turn back. Some of us lost so much, you know, growing. But the thing is, it's not like something like, hey, I do this, so respect me or pity me. It's kind of like it's something you could take solace in, knowing that it is you were right. You know what I'm saying? And you know that, like I said, there's still a lot of prejudice against this plant. But you know that it's only going to get better forward. You know what I'm saying? But like, I don't want to say the worst is behind, but because like I said, there's still people in red states. I know I get worried because I'm like, is the next president that gets voted in, is he going to take away the rights or try to send in people to make this shit illegal again? You know what I mean? Am I going to have to break down my grow because I promised my family I'd never have the cops kicking in my door again? You know what I'm saying? Not kicking in the door, but them seeing me get taken away in cuffs. And the sad part is, bro, is the 4 times I've gotten arrested in my life has been for cannabis. You know what I mean? 18 years old, 1990, roughly 1991. Felony possession of Class D, a roach, a freaking roach, and they charged me with a felony at 18 years old. About 10 years after that, uh, they found a quarter ounce. I was leaving the bar. I wasn't drinking, thank God, but I did get pulled over for a broken headlight, quarter ounce of weed, possession charge again. Roughly 6, 7 years after that, that's when that growing charge came into play. You know what I mean? And now, knock on wood, I hope I never get arrested again. But that's big. I mean, that goes to show, and I'm not wrong because this stuff is legal now. But these laws, the laws is what made me a criminal. I'm not a criminal. But for 3 times in my life, I was arrested and my freedoms almost got taken away because I was labeled a criminal for wanting to choose to smoke a plant instead of having a drink. You know what I'm saying? And this plant is tough because you smoke a joint or two, now you're on the hook for 30 days because it takes almost 4 weeks to leave your system. And then you got to worry about piss tests and this and that and the other. And you try to stop smoking, but you notice, man, drinking doesn't do it for me. This don't do it for me. But smoking, it's non-addictive to me. Anything if you do too much is no good. It's just like coffee. You're not going to go drink 3 pitchers of coffee every single day. You're going to be in trouble sooner or later. Same thing with grass, unless you have a health issue. Now, if you have a health issue, then yeah, you need to consume as much as it takes for you to feel better, because the other choice other than that could be highly addictive pills or some other prescription pharmaceutical that gives you side effects that you don't even want to talk about. You know what I mean? But even if these plants will cut you down from taking 4 pills to one, because I always tell people cannabis ain't the only answer, and I'm not a doctor. You may need both, but I do know from experience that if smoking a little weed, a little, not overdoing it, depending on what you have, you know, keeps you from popping, makes you take only 1 pill a day instead of 4 or 5. Now those side effects ain't magnified because you don't got 5 times the amount of that poison pumping through your system. You have them at minute, and then hopefully one day, especially now with the strains and how things evolve, you start seeing and you find something that you like that jives with you. And now you don't have to worry that this thing only comes around once a year, or hey, remember that one time I felt perfect, and once you find that strain that jives with you that way, boom, to know that you could grow it for yourself and you're golden, there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? And it's fun, it's a hobby, it's life, cannabis is life. It literally is, and it makes friendships, it makes so many things I would never think. You know what I mean? So many things, because one day, people say, "Oh, pot's going to be so cheap that it's not going to be worth growing." But I think people are still going to grow because growing is therapeutic in itself, you know. But yeah, I mean, I got off the subject a little bit, but like I said, I really appreciate you inviting me to the show, you having patience. Because, like I said, brother, I just needed to be in the right headspace, and I just put that stuff where it belongs behind me. And now, you know what I mean? I just look forward to getting a hold of my friends that I haven't talked to in a few months. You know what I mean? Reacquainting myself with people, meeting new ones. You know what I'm saying? So I know you get the rabbit hole here, and I don't want to invite myself, but hey, if you wouldn't mind me jumping in once in a while, during the rabbit hole with you guys, I'd be more than honored to, and just shoot the shit.
Oh, please. That's an offer I make at the end of every episode. Before you go, I always throw that out there that, you have to do the episode before you can jump in on the rabbit holes. But once you do your episodes, please jump in on rabbit holes when you see fit and you want to hang out. That's for sure. Man, I was going to let this one go, but I don't know. Sometimes, as I talk and I'm reading chat here. Sometimes shit cuts through. And this cat asked a question, and I don't duck shit. I don't hide shit. And so, Run Boy 7426 wants to know, what do I do in real life that I have to schedule overnights here? Uh, well, I'm a caregiver. I'm also a carpenter. But I don't know, moreover, why I do this to schedule this every night. It's probably because I've had one big fucked up life myself, have a black hole of a heart, and meeting these great people night after night that are passionate about what they do and are passionate about what I do slowly pumps some fucking new blood into this old fucking black heart. So, not that it's any of your business, but that's one of my reasons for my passions in doing this every night is there's just a fucking incredible void from a fucked up past that needs to be filled. So there's my reply to your question, brother. So yeah.
I could understand that. I can, it's like I said, it's just something that comes with wisdom. And sometimes you give to get, and sometimes the act of just giving and doing for others, you get a lot more in return. You know what I mean? So, like I said, to me, it's all part of community, and it is a big deal, because you could see you've had this already for about a year. You get numbers up past 100, but yet you're not showing off free lights. You're not showing off free nudes. You know what I mean? You bring new entrepreneurs in, which is another thing I love about this plant, because this has revived uh, garage garage inventors and entrepreneurs across America, like never before. You see people literally starting businesses. I've seen people start businesses in this community the last 6 years, that I've never seen in the last 40 years of my life. You know what I mean? people opening up nutrients, people finding out how to make something that wraps around your bucket to LST your plants, something to put in your dirt to give you a better plant. You know what I mean? People making breeding plants, and it's there. You know what I mean? And anybody who's grown grass, will tell you it's not easy. One, and two, it's a shitload of work. So it's not like easy money. You know what I mean? It's at one time maybe you could say that, but then again you had the law hanging over your head. You know what I mean? And I grew a lot of years when it was illegal. You know what I'm saying? And that's a shitty feeling, and you really don't enjoy yourself the way you do when you're legal and you got the law on your back. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I always said, brother, personally, my view, and I know it's the view of a lot of people because I've met a lot of great people in this community. You know what I mean? And, it's like I said, I think it's something wisdom that comes with age. You know what I'm saying? And with people that have been around.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Age is definitely. I think there's just some things that we're not meant to learn until later in life or understand. You know what I mean? Or even appreciate.
Amen. I know exactly what you mean, bro. And it's all perspective. That's the crazy part. You know what I mean? Perspective. It'll make you do the negative thing or the positive thing, or maybe just the neutral thing. But a lot of times your happiness is based on perspective. You know what I'm saying?
It is 100% true. Very,
But
very true.
Eagle, my friend, I don't know if you want me to come on some other time, brother, but I am getting a little tired and I speak pretty loud, and I think it's getting to be almost 3 in the morning here in the East Coast. I do have my son's working tomorrow morning. He has to get up at 7. So I don't want to hear him. I'm basically walking in circles in my basement. You know what I mean? And I'm sure,
I
with
got
the
you,
way I
brother.
talk. But you know what? Like I said, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on. You having the patience to wait the last few months. The next time I hope to have because how do you see chat and talk? You have to be on like a laptop or something, right? A tablet, laptop type thing.
Well, laptop, computer helps. Sometimes you can play it on your TV, and watch the chat that way, or have two devices. That helps. Have phone or and the computer. It's usually pretty easy. Yeah, there's two different devices. Usually the easiest way: one to chat, one to watch on.
That makes sense right there. You know what I mean? That makes 110% sense.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Can you at least shoot me? Hopefully you know what the sound bite is. Can you at least hit me up with the sound bite?
Yeah, sure can. You let me know when you want it.
I'm, I just hit the recording. I'm ready anytime you are.
This is your boy, Roy Boy, and you're watching fucking Talking Shit with Eagle.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time, man. What an incredible story, and it was very, very worth waiting. And I hope you do take me up on popping in on one of these rabbit holes. That link that I sent you, that number, some numbers, that link is always good. So feel free to jump in and hang out and talk and give us some great advice or just fucking smoke down. I don't give a shit. I enjoyed my time with you tonight, and I hope this isn't my
I hope
last
you do take
experience
me
with
up
you.
on popping in on one of
You talking in the background on my second device. But
Hey, like I said, I loved it. You know what I mean? I liked it. Thank you, man. And I had a great time too. I can't believe like almost 3 hours already went by. You know what I mean? And I definitely will, because I know there's times where you guys are in the rabbit hole and you are talking about growing or seeds, and I find myself yelling at the radio or saying, talking to myself as I'm walking around. You know what I mean? So I definitely will. I'll keep the number locked in. I want to say thank you for everybody who took the time to come by and see who I am. What am I about? You know, I really appreciate that you took your time to come see that. You know, I really appreciate it. You know, and I wish nothing but peace and safety and love to all of you.
So there's also the people like you've mentioned before, some of them folks that you've built some good bridges with. You want to give some shout outs before you go?
The shout out thing, I'm tired. You know, I don't want to. I was thinking of
I
that
got you.
before, and I wanted to. I just don't want to leave certain names out. You know, but you know, I want to shout out for sure the Good Earth family and all yous in it. You know what I mean? You guys were the first people I met in the community, and we spent many of a night. And without yous, I wouldn't even be comfortable to do this interview today because I got used to talking and speaking. My mind was speaking through to them all those nights. You know, Mystic Roa for years ago, she interviewed me once a long time ago. You know, Twisted Roots, always a good friend of the plant. The American one, uh, Justin Goodearth, Tara Lee, Ganja Bonsai, Dutch Grow 420. Um, and you know who it is. I say hi to you all the time. If you're positive people, you ain't trolls, you ain't negative, you don't bring negative shit around with you. You know you're a friend of mine.
Oh yeah. Well, again, man, I thank you very much, man. This has been a great conversation on my end, man. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you again. And ah, good luck, my brother. Good luck to you. I can see good things are headed your way.
I hope so. I hope good things head our way to all of us. Have a good night, my
Well,
friend.
let's. You too, brother. Take care. Well, that was your boy, Roy Boy. What a great episode. You guys. Oh, I thought I actually killed it for both of us. Your boy, Roy Boy. A great episode. Please give him a follow on Instagram. I'm sure he'll recognize your names. You guys probably all following him anyway. Well, there's still a time here. I'm going to get something to drink and fill up my tray. Get ready to hang out in the rabbit hole. Thank you guys. If you're not hanging out or going to the rabbit hole, refilling your tray and beverage, and heading to the rabbit hole. Thank you for hanging out so far. We got 66 hanging out currently. Thank you all for giving me some of your time. Time is very valuable, and I appreciate everybody that that does this. So yeah, I do all the shout outs at the end of the show there, and you're on them. I did put your name on there. God, I don't want to be embarrassed on there. You got Wade Twisted. You got Wade. I'm killing this one. Give me a minute, brother. Jump in here in a second. All right, you guys. I'll talk to you in a minute. Killing it. Twisted. Come back in a minute, brother. I'm out. Thank you guys. Do something for nice to somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. I'll see you in a minute.